Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Was a Seal Master. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 7. 12:05 a.m. Tazuna's unnamed bridge. Hatake Kakashi, the demon of the mist, spoke, blatant edge to his voice. Where is Haku? Zabuza-kun. She is safe and now under the protection of Konoha for the duration of our negotiation. Bad way to start, not bringing her. Couldn't risk you getting rambunctious before we've spoken. She's a valuable tool, but not that valuable, and won't stop me from killing you, Hatake. What do you want? I want to know why two professionals such as ourselves are getting played by some small-town crook and alcoholic bridge builder. 3:10 p.m., 6 hours and 50 minutes before meet with Zabuza. Tazuna's house, kitchen. Team 7 sat around Tsunami's kitchen table, Kakashi at the head, Naruto on one side while Sakura was on the other. Sasuke sat at the opposite end facing Kakashi. We've got some time before I meet Zabuza, and I wanted to have a brief team meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, voice them now. If we have his partner, why just attack him since he's the threat? All 4 of us could take him, Kakashi, Sasuke observed. Why don't one of you tell me? True, we could likely take Zabuza. I'm confident I could defeat him myself, though it'd be difficult. However, not enough to deter me should it need to happen, so why take this option? What do you think, Sakura? We don't have enough information? She asked back. Yes, that is true. While I am fairly sure Haku was the last of Zabuza's support, the pair are not the totality of Gato's forces. We don't know how many there are, where they are stationed, or what they comprise of. Are they just thugs? Former samurai? This is important, but as a ninja you often don't have perfect information, and waiting for the time you do can cause your mission to fail. Risk is inherent in this line of work, it can only be minimized so much. Naruto, what do you think? We have a 4-party conflict presenting itself as a 2-party conflict. And who would the 4 interested parties be? Nominally, Tazuna and Gato. But you and Zabuza would be the 2 hidden ones. Exactly. It is easy to think of this as us, representing Tazuna, versus Zabuza, who represents Gato. But Zabuza's loyalty is only to the extent of his pay, and I not only have to try to complete the mission but do so in such a way that doesn't harm Konoha's short or long-term interests either, namely protecting you 3. This means Zabuza could be useful if I play this right. Tazuna's bridge, 12:07 am. What are you playing at, Kakashi? Zabuza growled. I'm sure Gato told you why he needed the bridge builder clipped. Yes, it threatens his business. This massive, bi-coastal bridge. The one thing that could harm his business, and it somehow manages to build to near completion before he stops it. Either he's incompetent, or he's lying. Yup. The bridge is the last hope of the residents. They believe it will free them, but if Gato has the muscle to claim an island, he can manage a bridge. You killing Tazuna more or less after he finishes breaks the will of the people. Come on now, how did Tazuna's drunken self get out of Nami under a shipping magnate and smuggler's watch? Maybe he thinks I'll kill you. Tazuna finishes the bridge and the people cheer, only to be further oppressed. On the other hand, you kill me and he lays all of this at your feet. A third option is we either kill or exhaust each other and he comes and cleans us up. It's an interesting theory, but that rat wouldn't cross me. Betrayal works best that way. 3:45 p.m. Nearing Nami's daimyo mansion. Gato had not been enthused by his talk with Zabuza. The man dared to think he could set the timetable and completely disregard what he, Gato, thought? When he was cutting the checks? When he was the one in control? It made his blood boil, the arrogance of that musclehead. Little better than a beast of burden, and thought he could speak down to an accomplished businessman. Gato would continue to rant and rave until he was suddenly and most unpleasantly interrupted. Before he could make sense of anything, Gato found himself on his back looking toward the sky. Then he was yanked up, as if he weighed nothing. Gato finally put eyes on the person that dared to manhandle him. A boy, teen really, brown hair and black eyes. Taller than Gato but not by much, and wore a yellow shirt and blue pants. The boy seemed panicked. Oh geez. I'm sorry about that, oh geez. You see what you did? A taller, older and balding man in a white robe and brown pants said. I let you pick. You say you get to pick every 10th time, and you see. This is why you can't be in control. you run into people and get us into all kinds of shit. Why you've been riding my ass since we left? You haven't even given this a chance, the teen said before slapping at the older man. You wanna go? We can go, the man said as he started tussling with the boy in earnest. Waraji and Zora eventually put a stop to it and tell the, Gato assumed, grandfather and grandson pair on their way. Gato continued on to his mansion even more annoyed than he was. The grandfather and grandson had slinked off to an alley and was soon joined by a third party. Did you do it? Spiral 1 asked. Hi, said Spiral 2 with Spiral 3 nodding. The first clone shunshed away to continue his job of surveilling Gato. The second clone activated his communication seal. Spiral 2 to Cherry Bomb, do you copy? This is Cherry Bomb, Spiral 2, I copy. I tagged Gato and his 2 guards. Channel 2, 3 and 4 respectively. Over. I'll switch now. Over. Continuing surveillance, Spiral 3 and I will take the muscle should they leave. Over and out. As Sakura remained vigilant listening to any salient information, Sasuke and Kakashi were resting. The day would be long and rest was a premium, especially if Kakashi was going to need to use his Sharingan. A clone of Naruto's was helping Tsunami around the house, as a guest should. The original was sitting in a spare bedroom holding a snow rabbit observing Haku. She was clearly in pain, but she would confess her physical pain barely merited a mention compared to her emotional distress. She looked broken, utterly broken. Kill me, she whispered. I have no value to you. I am simply a broken tool, so I also have no value to Zabuza-sama. When she heard the boy walk toward her, a traitorous part of her flinched, a pesky will to survive that was unbefitting a tool and a betrayer. She forced herself to relax, to the best of her abilities, as her back was incredibly sore. She heard the boy move deliberately. She didn't bother to make eye contact as she just wanted it over. Closer and closer he walked, until she could feel his body heat. He moved his hand to her right arm and pinched her, hard. Ow! She exclaimed as he sat back down. Why did you do that? I've never, not once, heard a kunai shout in pain. We've established you are not a tool, and as such, killing you because you are broken is a fundamentally flawed argument. You're wrong, that's exactly what I am. I have no more purpose, I have no reason to live. What purpose was so significant that to fail it means you should die? Naruto decided to ignore the tool talk, she seemed committed to it. For the first time Haku made contact with the boy. To protect the person that saved me, my sole precious person. Zabuza isn't dead. I've still put him at risk, I've failed in my duty. What greater shame is there? I've never felt ashamed before, but I've seen it. My Aji-san had to explain it to me. He has to explain a lot of that stuff to me. Anyway, I remind my villagers of a tragic day. They ostracized me because of it, and have for as long as I can remember. For most of my life they looked at me in fear and apprehension. It changed in the last 2 years and I didn't understand it, hence asking my Aji-san. Most people would likely rank mistreating a child as one of the worst things you can do, and yet my villagers did that. However, their reasons started to falter, and it created cognitive dissonance. If they didn't find a way to stay angry at me, they may have to acknowledge me as what I truly am, and then acknowledge what their actions make them. Haku was so absorbed in her story that she forgot about her own shame for a moment. Do you hate them? No. They are trapped and can't face themselves. If I were what they said I was but changed, they'd likely accept me more, as it would have proven them right. But they can't redeem me because I don't need it. They want to rid themselves of the burdens they carry, but the process scares them. I think, objectively, that's sad, though I don't feel sad for them. Why would you tell me this? Because shame is an acknowledgement that, for whatever reason, you failed at something and failed yourself. But failure is rarely the end of things. My best friend once called me a proud failure because I never let setbacks stop me from trying. This is different. Maybe. But even still, your precious person is still alive, and there is more than one way to protect someone. Haku was starting to get annoyed at the emotionless boy. Well, my way is to assure Zabuza-sama can achieve his ambition, but if he has to rescue me, I'm only in the way. What's his ambition? To overthrow Yagura, the Mizukage. The man that started the bloodline purges. The man that made people fear those with bloodlines, the one that, he's a monster and Zabuza-sama wants to usurp him, but that takes resources. It's only the 2 of you. Yes, if the demon brothers are gone. You can't fight a rebellion with 2 people. We'd raise an army. Oh, so he has contacts in Kiri? Not that I'm aware of. All the people he had died against Yugura, except the demon brothers. So, he takes missions with the intent to return to Kiri, raise an army of people with little connection to him, and kill a sitting Kage? Yes. She said heatedly, not likely this boy criticizing Zabuza. Sounds like you aren't the only one ashamed. Haku went wide-eyed at the boy's pronouncement. She dedicated herself to protecting Zabuza-sama, ensuring he'd eventually return to Kiri and save it. But if he truly was forestalling his return, then she'd failed entirely. She really was useless. What's your bunny's name? What? Why couldn't he let her break down in peace? Your bunny, what is his name? Chappie. Do you think Zabuza needs the same kind of protection Chappie does? Are you mocking me? Not intentionally, no. Naruto said, looking at Haku unblinkingly. What is your point? In Konoha we believe in the will of fire, the idea that everyone in the village is family and everyone looks after everyone else. That didn't seem to apply to you. You can't judge a method by a single outcome, Haku-san. When Aji-san was telling me what a Hokage did, he said he had the ultimate job of protecting Konoha and passing on the will of fire. I was confused for a while after that talk. He sits in the office most days. How is he protecting anything? Eventually, I realized there are 3 types of protection: taking someone's burden, sharing someone's burden, and preparing them to face their burdens. Aji-san could do the first one for major threats, but mostly did the latter too. Including allowing an orphan to not think he'd always be an outsider, unable to understand those around him. And which one does Zabuza-sama need? I couldn't possibly know, I don't know him. But it'd take more than a tool to figure it out. Naruto sat Chappie down and unsealed a jar from his mass storage seal. This ointment is a pain reliever. If you have trouble putting it on, let me know and I can help. Hentai. Haku yelled and Naruto looked confused. I'd only see your lower back. Are lower backs titillating? Can you have a lower back fetish? I'll have to ask OJ-san about that. He really wasn't specific. Naruto said, mostly to himself as Haku watched on in disbelief. The boy was odd. Anyway, I'm training in the medical arts, so this would be a form of treatment, not an attempt to ogle you. I'm fine, boys your age get ideas. You're the one talking about lower back fetishes. Naruto said in confusion. He grew even more confused when the kunoichi laughed as he exited. Haku opened the jar of medicinal cream and rubbed on her back with great effort, but she bore it all the same. Within minutes the cream had taken effect and she felt good enough to move to the bed. She picked up her faithful companion and thought deeply by the perplexing blonde's words. Had she been mistaken about what Zabuza-sama truly needed? Did he need more than a tool? If so, what was it and how could she become it? She'd circle around these thoughts until she drifted off. 12:10 am, Tazuna's bridge. You still haven't told me what you want, Kakashi. To procure your services. It shouldn't be too hard to make Gato disappear. Then you can take what he was going to pay you and be on your merry way. Back out of a contract? Just because I'm a missing ninja doesn't mean I have no honor. Besides, your bingo book bounty would be a nice bonus. Ma, that assumes you'd be alive to claim it. Do you really want Gato's men to kill you because you exhausted yourself fighting me? Unless that's exactly what you want. 3:57 p.m. Gato's hideout / Nami's daimyo mansion. Waraji, Zora, how would you characterize our men? Gato asked. Fodder, mostly. Zora spoke. I'd estimate 10 are solid but still a cut below us. Why? Waraji asked. I don't trust Zabuza can get to the bridge builder. He was supposed to be on the lookout for that drunk pest's return, but somehow the man managed to get back and Zabuza didn't even know. And he was alone today. What happened to the other 3 members? Dead, most likely. Or captured. Zabuza did say he would meet the other ninja on the bridge. Waraji answered. If they are captured, he's compromised and may turn on me. And with the attention of a ninja village, we're going to need to go underground, but not before I extract my pound of flesh. What are you planning, boss? Zora asked. I want you to get the men ready. Have most go to the bridge. Tell them to handle the ninja and blow the bridge. Have our best go to Tazuna's. Kill him, kills his family. And what about us? Waraji questioned. As soon as they move out, we're going to get on my ship and get out of here. I hate to lose territory, but I've broken Nami once. I can break it again. The 2 bodyguards left the mansion, each going to a separate complex where Gato stored his men. Neither realized they had a tail. Back at Tazuna's, Sakura informed Kakashi of the developments, and he hummed in satisfaction. Kakashi thought he'd need to spur Gato on to betray Zabuza, but it appeared the man was rather distrusting and cowardly. He could make use of this, but he had no intention of fighting an army of bandits. He could do it, but putting forth that much effort wasn't cool. Besides, he had Chibi here and he was confident the blonde could come up with something. Sakura, get the real Naruto and have him come here. Oh, great, more ways to avoid fighting. Sasuke scoffed. You say something, Sasuke-chan? The Uchiha bristled. We aren't going to get stronger if we don't challenge ourselves, Kakashi. And by challenge you mean open combat with an unknown number of enemies? No physical descriptions? Not even a word on their locations yet? We could take them. Possibly. But could we do it and avoid innocent bystanders? Do we know if they have hostages? Have they rigged their barracks to blow? Your challenges will come, Sasuke. The Uchiha scowled. He hated how useless he's felt this entire mission. Intellectually he can attest to Kakashi's approach, but it is one that leaves him with little to do. He can't get real experience if he doesn't fight. He certainly can't awaken his Sharingan. As Sasuke was getting lost in his thoughts, Naruto walked in. You wanted to see me, Hatake-sensei. Yes, I need to ask you something, but first, did Sakura fill you in on what Gato plans to do? The boy nodded. Good. Is there a way to tag each of Gato's men, without them knowing it, so we can activate it once they get to the bridge? Naruto thought about this and then squinted. You would like me to create a seal that implants other seals on people without their knowledge? Maybe put it in the main exits, like a barrier that doesn't impede them but can chakra write a seal in thin air. Kakashi's sweat dropped at the summation. He guessed it did sound ridiculous once laid out. A trap seal would be fine, except there was a chance they'd miss some of them, and he wanted to avoid that if possible. Did you hear me, Hatake-sensei? I'm sorry, lost to my thoughts. What did you say? I said it might take an hour if I don't rush it. Wait, you can actually do this? Naruto looked at him blankly. I outlined the elements, sensei. A barrier, placed on the exits that can chakra write. Well, it'd be more like a replicator array. A cloaking layer so it goes unseen. Multiple triggers, maybe pressure and body heat? At the bare minimum, what must the effect be, sensei? I just need something that won't allow them to flee or attack. Yes, I believe I can accomplish this. I'll be outside if you need me. Sasuke watched the interaction but didn't get the significance of what he'd heard. It was only Kakashi's question that clued Sasuke in that Naruto may have done something impressive. He knew his teammate used Fuinjutsu, a rare skill set, but because it was so rare it was hard to gauge when something was truly a demonstration of skill, or if it just looked that way to the ignorant. Kakashi, how good is Naruto at Fuinjutsu? Kakashi formed an eye smile. You'll have to ask him yourself. HN. Elsewhere, a small boy watched as Naruto settled onto the dock of the pond near Tsunade's. The boy had been experienced a whirlwind of emotions when his grandfather informed him he was leaving to purchase the aid of real-life ninja. Inari hadn't held out much hope. He hadn't felt hope in years. His hero died and no one lifted a hand. To his small mind that must have meant Gato was simply too powerful. His father had tried to do the impossible. What were a few ninja going to do that an entire village couldn't? He'd held firm on that belief even when the ninja arrived. They didn't look that impressive. Most of them weren't much older than him. What were some kids going to do? What could they do? He started to feel angry. At them for giving his mother and grandfather false hope. At the adults for believing in some weirdo Cyclops and his children. But he wouldn't explode, not yet. They'd show themselves to be inadequate, and he'd tell his grandfather it was always a bad idea. But then, something amazing happened. Inari watched as one of the kids, the blonde, made copies of himself. Copies that could walk and talk and think all on their own. Then he watched the blondes paint these weird symbols outside of the house and then made it emit a glow. The blonde made another painting, on paper, and then had the entire family place their thumbs on the symbol. Inari felt something pass over him. It was cold and hot at the same time. Once that was done, the boy explained they were now safe, that no one but the family and his team could come in without being allowed to. Inari saw something he hadn't seen in years. His mother relaxed. As if years of tension had melted away, the blonde assured his mother she was safe and she believed him. And as much as he hated it, Inari believed him, too. He then watched as the team had ways of communicating without actually speaking and could transform to look and sound just like his grandpa. They even caught an enemy ninja. Overthrowing Gato didn't seem so impossible now. Hope battled the tragedy-induced pessimism Inari had wrapped himself up in since his father's death. He stopped believing in heroes, but his young mind couldn't discount what he'd seen. It was magic as far as he was concerned. Real-life magic. He wanted to talk to the fellow boy, to understand how he was strong and unafraid of Gato. He wanted to know a great many things, but he decided to wait and watch. They hadn't truly saved his grandfather yet. Naruto knew he had watchers but worked diligently. His self-imposed deadline was fast approaching and he didn't want any unnecessary delays. The seal, as he told Hatake-sensei, would at its most basic be a barrier. A simple one that could allow passage if the creator so chose. Naruto then added various arrays to the barrier level, not only the tag that would be applied to Gato's men but the replicator and discharge arrays that would actually apply it to the skin, as well as a cloaking seal inside the tags so they aren't visible even when applied. That took the longest, as instead of doing a multi-layer seal for that part, he did a multifactorial array all on one level. This, to Naruto's mind, is what Fuinjutsu so complicated. Most people tried for really complex multifactorial seals. Every seal is a collection of arrays, but some have been worked out enough to essentially function as one. No one needs to think about the ignition and combustion parts of an exploding tag. It's been standardized too long for that, but adding an exploding tag array into other arrays means you have to compensate for the various elements, sometimes making certain aspects less efficient so it could coexist with others. Seal masters understand how to get around this issue, but it does take time. Multi-tiered sealing allowed for dedicated arrays to function as they should, with the translation happening after the function took place. More people didn't do it, Naruto was told by Jiraiya, because the theory was so underdeveloped and seemed magnitudes harder than the multifactorial method. The second tier would act as the activation trigger, pressure and body temperature with a tracker array so multiple targets could be identified and tagged at the same time. The last tier would be the most experimental of the three. One of the jutsu Naruto learned was the Earth-style, subterranean voyage. He thought incorporating that ability to merge with solid surfaces would do well with his Fuin beads, especially once he figured out his information system seals. Once Naruto had drawn out the seals on separate scrolls, Naruto layered them and then performed a series of hand signs. The three individual seals merged into one and then compressed into something new. The compression sealing jutsu was an Uzumaki original, and one that they shared with the larger sealing community. Naruto activated his projection seal as he looked at his work and contacted the relevant parties. Spiral 1, 2, and 3, this is Spiral Prime, copy? This is Spiral 1, I copy. Spiral 2 here, I copy. Spiral 3, copy. Activate projection seals and memorize what you see. Big Dog wants them on every exit of Gato's and his army's complex. Over. We applying these to our spare Fuin beads? Over. Hi, you are. Spiral Prime, over and out. The three shadow clones memorized the details of the tri-level seal, taking a moment to pull it apart. They had orders, but new Fuinjutsu was presented to them, and they had to see what it did. Once they did, each summoned a number of blank Fuin beads from the mass storage seal and applied the compressed seal via chakra. Each clone would infuse a little chakra into the beads before tossing them into various door frames and watched as the beads sunk before he was no longer visible. The process should have been harder, but Gato's men were so arrogant they didn't believe anyone would actually attack them, so they had no guards. Gato, however, simply had sent his guards away and was unprotected. It took not even 5 minutes to set up the barriers, and the clones were back to their hiding spots before anyone knew. They settled back and ready to surveil their targets until told otherwise. Back on the pier, the original Naruto had unsealed a cylindrical pillow and propped his head up. He was in need of a nap. He'd been a little keyed up, not that anyone knew, and hadn't slept well. The last seal was taxing on his tired mind, so he thought a nice nap by the water would be justified. He was asleep as soon as he had hit the pillow. Inari went back to the house when he saw Naruto fall asleep. Haku, with Chappie, watched the boy that had thrown her world in such disarray. The boy that so easily made her question much of her reality, her place in Zabuza's life, and her very identity. She was confused and wanted a way to dismiss his words. But she would return to his story, about the villagers that couldn't face themselves, so they continued to blame him. She didn't want to do that. She wasn't a coward. She was a tool. The thought ended abruptly as Haku rubbed her arm where Naruto pinched her. Was she still a tool? Should she had ever been one? Could Zabuza-sama have already achieved his dream had she been better? Or simply more? Something other than a thing in need of orders? If she had her own will, if she were acknowledged as an equal, would Zabuza-sama be more confident? Was his delays her fault? She didn't like those thoughts, hated feeling unsure, her feet moved toward Naruto. He looked so different asleep. Peaceful and so young. Some part of her wanted to strangle the life out of him for implanting such doubts in her head. She crouched down and debated. He was a bad, evil boy and his master made her betray Zabuza-sama. She had every right to hate them. Even if he knew pain like hers. Even if he had tried to care for her, and even made her laugh. But would killing him help Zabuza-sama? Is that enough reason to do it? Did she want to kill this boy? When was the last time she asked herself what she wanted? It had been too long, at least for anything important. She was so tired and confused. Who was she? What was she? Her eyes burned, she wanted to be outside her head. She didn't know. She didn't know anything. It scared her, to not know. The future felt open and shrouded. Her exhaustion, physically and emotionally, took over. She settled in beside Naruto. Chappy and she could hate Naruto after a nap. 12:15 am Tazuna's bridge. Gato's men had arrived just as they'd been ordered to do. The two ninja weren't fighting, simply talking. This wasn't the plan, they were supposed to exhaust each other first. Some of the men didn't care and believed their numbers would be enough. Others, having heard stories about Shinobi, were less confident. All were on edge, their nerves running away from them. One man had an arrow knocked but his arm was starting to tire. Then, in the background an explosion was heard. It startled the man so much he shot his arrow. The projectile tore through the sky and all took it as the signal, but they waited, hoping the two shinobi would be distracted as well. Maybe the arrow would kill one of them, improving their odds even more. It was hard to track in the night, but many strained their eyes just to get a glimpse. It neared the two ninja, growing ever closer, and then it struck the ground, 20 feet from either target. I guess you were right, Kakashi. I've got some vermin to slay. Zabuza growled as he unleashed his killing intent. Kakashi simply channeled some chakra to a seal he had wrapped around his wrist. Zabuza was confused when he heard the men yelling and what sounded like numerous collisions. He ran toward the cowards that would dare double-cross him, just to see dozens of men struggling to break apart from each other. They were in a massive dogpile, all shouting to be free. Some had been impaled on their weapons, others injured as they were tossed into another person. The first part of Naruto's trap was an attraction seal. Each seal would be attracted to everyone like it within a certain range, and with such great force none of the men could fight it. Kakashi soon tired of their shouts of pain and distress, deciding to activate level 2. Soon, the bridge and the surrounding areas were quiet as Naruto's knockout array worked perfectly. This ended just how Kakashi liked, with bare minimum effort so he could still look cool. Zabuza could only summarize his current state in one way. What the fuck just happened? Elsewhere, Gato was terrified. He couldn't even bluster nor beg, his mind wouldn't form the words. His bodyguards and he were on their way to his ship, cash in tow. 20 feet from the ship's dock they watched as it exploded. Then, from the darkness these metal things flew and pierced Waraji and Zora in their arms and legs. The men were down but their cries of pain were silenced when a swift kick to each of their heads. When Gato saw who prevented his escape, he realized it was a mere child. He was set to yell at the little punk because a chop to the back of his neck ended it. Moments later he was tied up with his men, who had been thoroughly disarmed, and they were being drugged like carcasses. It was over, he knew it. No amount of begging would save him. If his men found out he was going to abandon them, they'd turn on him as well. His life was over. At Tazuna's, Sakura, Naruto and Haku watched as 10 men were knocked out in a ball of human flesh. Sakura was amazed at the seal, having been given the controls. Haku, too, was impressed and wondered what the blonde's limits were. She was also thankful he seemed to prefer no lethal means, as she may be far worse off than she was. Naruto marveled at the tea. It was really good tea. He made note to ask Tsunami-san about it. Some might be surprised by his focus, but truthfully, seals were easy. Good tea, now that's hard. It wouldn't be morning until Tazuna and his family were informed Gato had been captured. Inari would round up the villagers, all willing to dispense justice on the tyrant. The danger had been neutralized, but Team 7 had to wait for the bridge to be finished. None seemed to mind. It may be boring from that point on, but how many people could say they managed to liberate a country in 2 days? Kakashi was pleased with the actions of his team, though Sasuke choosing to fight instead of using the seal was a little worrying. He knew before he took the mission he was going to keep them, but this made him all the more confident in his decision. And best of all, the thing that stood out the most? Chibi got an enemy kunoichi to snuggle with him. He truly was the one. Chapter 8. Team 7+1 stood inside the Hokage's office as the leader of Konoha read over Kakashi's report. The man's face was impassive, not giving one hint at what he may be thinking. Once he finished the scroll, he sat it down and steepled his fingers, looking at the lone jounin. Kakashi met his gaze. The copy ninja appeared more visibly resolute than he normally did, his own lackadaisical manner shelved for the moment. Is all of this true, Kakashi? Hi. HM. Well done, Team 7. You are no longer provisional but full ninja of Konoha. Congratulations. If you and Haku-san will excuse us, I'd like to have a word with Kakashi. As the team headed toward the door, the Sandaime stopped them. Oh, Naruto Clan? Yes, Aji-san? This startled the other members of Team 7. They'd heard Naruto speak about his Aji-san, but never had he referred to the Hokage as such in their presence nor given any hint that's who he was speaking of this entire time. Sai-kun and the regular escort will be on Training Ground 23 at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Hi. The team departed after that, Kakashi already informing them they would have 2 days off from training and missions. As they left, both the Sandaime and Kakashi saw Sasuke's reaction, a glint of suspicion that Naruto was receiving something the Uchiha hadn't. It didn't portend for great things in the immediate future, but that would have to wait for now. Kakashi, what were you thinking? You should have either cancelled or immediately called for backup as soon as those missing ninja attacked. I truly believed I could handle any unforeseen risks that would arise. Yes, but you didn't handle it. Tell me, if you didn't have a Seal Master on your team, how do you think this would have played out? I would have had to fight Zabuza as we entered wave. Maybe I win, but with my concern for my students I couldn't go all out, and if his apprentice had attacked with him I could have been overwhelmed. Yes, this Haku person, she seems close to Naruto-kun, and this doesn't seem to bother you. Those two grew closer during the mission. I made sure to watch them, Hokage-sama. She's not a threat, just a young woman trying to figure herself out. They did spend a lot of time together because for whatever reason they understand each other. And after years of being with Zabuza, he goes to Kiri but she comes here? She's not a killer. Zabuza knew it, I can see it. I suspect even you can pick up on that. I will allow this for now, but if this is some trick by Zabuza or Naruto-kun gets hurt, all responsible will know my displeasure. Kakashi's expression didn't change, but he shivered at the thought of the Sandaime's displeasure being expressed. It generally included fire. Lots of fire. How a lifetime smoker could have that great of lung capacity defied logic. I'm confident the last thing she wants is to harm Naruto, sir. I wouldn't put Minato-sensei's son at risk. Yes, from the report I can tell. What really made you call the clone off? Kakashi sighed before answering. I know each of my students will have to take a life eventually, but heat of combat and an assassination are different. They feel different, and there is generally a reason the former happens before the latter. I don't know how Naruto would handle it, and I think that's the main reason. I couldn't be sure he wouldn't be overwhelmed. I understand, Kakashi. The instinct to not throw them into the deep end is understandable, but situations change, and you may not always have that choice. With all that being said, this was well done. I'll likely have Shikaku add this to the Chunin seminars and the usage of basic techniques and advanced tactics. Yes, you trained Naruto well, Kakashi said with a hint of accusation. I have done almost nothing in terms of direct training of Naruto-kun. Hints? Stories or suggestions? Yes. But little beyond that. Why, what's the problem? My team is unbalanced, gravely unbalanced. C-ranks are supposed to push the team, but with Naruto, his sealing abilities and his mentality, they change things. If I allow him to operate at his full capacity, I sideline Sasuke and Sakura. If I hold Naruto back, the other two will get more direct experience but are also at greater, unnecessary risk. The question becomes, who do I stunt? I want my team to grow, but I truly underestimated how prodigious Naruto was. That seal he created to tag Gato's men, he finished it in an hour. I saw that. I will have to see about incorporating that into our entrances. Good way to stop infiltrators. I do see your point, Kakashi. The next C rank you wish to take, I'll have Naruto be unavailable, and we can go from there. Kakashi nodded and was dismissed. Hiruzen thought about his grandson. It seemed the boy demonstrated his genius over the sealing arts ran deeper than any imagined on a regular occurrence. While great, Kakashi was right. Genin weren't meant to be masters over any shinobi art, not even prodigies could claim mastery. Hiruzen reasoned he might have to push Kakashi to enter his team into the upcoming Chunin exams. They were still a few months away, but Naruto-kun wasn't a genin. The old man started running through plans, ways to ensure Naruto could be promoted, justly. He'd arranged for Danzo's agent to be more available. The boys really pushed each other, and Hiruzen would look the other way as Danzo supplied Naruto-kun with more ninjutsu. He'd also have Jiraiya start to really put him through the ringer. Naruto-kun had done well training himself, but it was time to find and surpass his limits. He'd even increased the shadow clone limit. This, of course, would only further the gap between him and his teammates, but it was necessary. He didn't want to push his grandson too hard. Like Kakashi, he wanted to ease the boy into the lifestyle. But like Kakashi, he was trying to fight against an unstoppable wave. Naruto-kun wasn't someone that could stay hidden. His conversation with the daimyo and Madame Shurjimi made that clear. The Chunin exams, they wouldn't be able to hide him after that. Haku and Naruto walked through the village. She discreetly observed the villagers and could see many did seem uncomfortable when they laid eyes on her friend. She thought it such a waste, what they were missing out on by keeping him at arm's length. She'd come to truly appreciate his presence as she was dealing with her developing sense of self and her relationship with Zabuza-sama. That she could sit in complete silence with him and not feel uncomfortable nor pressured to speak was a comfort. He never judged her, never demanded anything from her. It was welcomed. He even let her cry on his shoulder when she and Zabuza-sama agreed to part company. Her master had finally come clean, his delay in going back to Kiri being due to the humiliation of his defeat. How she had become his excuse, her unwillingness to kill a sign she wasn't ready. He'd used her as a way to not face himself, and she'd done the same. It was a difficult discussion, but the first one they'd had as more than master and servant. He decided to return to his home, to fight for it whatever the state of the rebellion was in. It was reflexive, her desire to go with him, but there was another part of her that wanted something different. That wanted to learn more about herself and not be on the run or in the middle of a war. To her shock, Zabuza-sama understood and gave his blessing. That was a week after Gato's fall. After that, she spent more and more time with Naruto when he wasn't on duty. They trained together, sit on the dock or walk around Nami. When she revealed her bloodline limit, Naruto was fascinated by it. So much so, he stayed up all night working on something, even summoning a small toad for help. The next day he showed her his work, having her channel some Hayatan chakra through a seal. The result? Shaved ice. What he had requested from the toad. Various fruits that could be made into syrups. They spent the day giving snow cones to the children. She found it endearing that his first thoughts weren't battle applications, but a way to make people happy, even if it were just momentary. Haku? She replied, having been lost in thought. She'd simply followed Naruto without paying much attention. We're here, your room is next to mine. She didn't quite understand what he meant by that, as she assumed she'd stay with him for the short term, until she got on her feet. As they climbed the stairs they stopped at a plain-looking door. You have to channel chakra through the doorknob, Naruto said. Haku did, and she watched an intricate seal appear on the door for a brief moment before the door unlocked and she walked through. The apartment was cozy. The living room had a blue couch and matching chair, a dark oak coffee table and television stand. There was a small kitchen table in between the living room space and the kitchenette. She walked toward one of the doors and saw it was a bedroom, the bed adorned with chocolate brown sheets and one nightstand. Chappie even had his own bed, as he was peacefully napping. She walked toward the closet and saw it full of women's clothes and shoes, all her size. The Yuki clanswoman was confused. And Naruto, where are your things? And did you do this? For me? Next door, this is your apartment. I had Gamakichi request Ino-chan's help, so she picked all of that out. Aerodana put up the security seals. Remember when I had you channel chakra into that seal on our way here? It was so the security would recognize you as its primary users. Haku rushed over to the boy and hugged him. Thank you, Naruto. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. You don't have to. I own the building now, besides you're my friend, he said, as if that explained the entire world. She almost wanted to cry, having her own space to do with as she pleased. To have a home, it was almost overwhelming. Naruto simply hugged her back, not truly getting the significance of his gesture. She needed a place to stay, would likely want or need new clothes, so he took care of it. It was Aerodana that recommended he buy his building. The building wasn't in his name, but that of his company, Uzumaki, It even had a sealing subsidiary named Vortex Seals. It was an attempt to keep Naruto anonymous, and keep any inquiring minds from investigating why a 12-year-old orphan was becoming obscenely wealthy in such a short time. It also helped hide the transfer of his inheritance, and the IP of his parents' seals to Naruto. Due to that, allowing Haku a room for however long she needed it simply wasn't a burden. Haku soon released the hug, wiping the unshed tears from her eyes. Naruto started for the door, but not before asking if she were up for meeting some of his friends later. She agreed and Naruto exited, only to see Aerodana standing at his door. "Aerodana?" he said and saw the sage lower his head. "Gaki, you have to stop calling me that. But you said you were a super pervert in your introduction." "Granted, but still, how am I going to get some ladies if you keep calling Master Pervert?" Jiraiya watched Naruto stroke his chin. "Were you getting ladies before I started calling you that?" "Why, you little brat!" he exclaimed with no real heat, and Naruto cracked a small smile at his godfather's antics. He found the man amusing. "I'm here on a mission, Gaki. Someone has some seal work I've never been able to decipher. I want you to check it out, and on the way you can tell me about your first C rank and this enemy Kunoichi you romanced." "Romanced? I didn't romance anyone. I think you'd do better with women if you knew what romance meant, Jiraiya." Naruto spoke in response, looking at Jiraiya in mild confusion. "I wrote the book on shinobi romance. Your female characters are underdeveloped. I swear, everyone's a critic," Jiraiya said in defeat as the two left the complex. Jiraiya led Naruto to a secure Anbu facility and guided the boy through the series of tunnels until they arrived at a sealing chamber. Jiraiya walked in, Naruto right behind with Anko sitting on a hospital bed. She was clearly surprised to see Naruto. "What's the half-pint doing here, Jiraiya-sama? I don't want some amateur looking at my seal." "Relax, Anko. Naruto is a certified seal master, the one Sensei was telling you about." "The one that invented this?" she said, holding up her wrist to show the Fuin bracelet. "One and the same. Also, that is a secret, so please don't spread it around." Anko didn't seem sure. She knew Jiraiya wouldn't mess with her, not about this, but it was difficult to believe a newly minted genin could do something a Sannin hadn't managed. However, beyond her misgivings, she was desperate to be free of the seal, and if the kid could help even slightly it would be worth it. "Okay, Blondie, let's see what you can do." Naruto nodded and then approached. He performed a series of hand signs and then activated his projection screen as he watched the seal decompress. To Anko, it looked as if he were staring off into space, but Jiraiya had seen him assembly and disassembly seals through his projection to know the boy was already at work. Naruto checked over the elements of the seal multiple times. It was a pretty complicated seal, and one of the reasons it was so hard to move, besides having a decent enough compression array, was it immediately grafted itself onto the chakra network. But that wasn't impossible to get around. It was the other elements that had Naruto confused, so when he muttered, "That's not right," he had the two adults in the room interested in what the Uzumaki was seeing. If they'd asked, Naruto would have told them. The seal had a stored consciousness within it, as well as another type of energy that Naruto didn't immediately recognize as chakra. It had limiters placed within the seal, to handle aggression as well as muscle activity, as if there was an expected increase in strength the body couldn't fully handle and would break down if it weren't capped in some way. There were some other things in here as well, such as a mild enhancement to one's healing rate and improvements to reaction time and awareness. However, Naruto came back to the limiters and control. Nothing within the seal could account for why they would be necessary or how that other energy was tapped into. There was no array that led to it, but he could tell the seal was meant to respond to it. It was a puzzle, and Naruto wasn't happy. The blonde could feel he was missing something obvious, making an erroneous assumption, but he couldn't see what it was. It wasn't located in the seal. He'd been thorough in his analysis. While the seal was triggered by the inflicted chakra system, it only activated it. The seal was wholly complete as is. If it wasn't the seal itself, maybe it was the application. "Anko-chan, how was this seal applied to you?" "I was bitten," she spat. That surprised Naruto. He'd never heard of a seal being applied from the mouth. He started thinking of why that would be. Seals materialized via chakra are generally done so by the hand. Could the bite be significant? Naruto wondered. He activated his diagnostic jutsu on the seal, having up to this point assumed it was either ink or chakra-based. The diagnostic jutsu showed something else. It was a hybrid seal of chakra and some type of organic compound, one that must react to the stored energy. Naruto was dismayed at the idiocy of the seal. Organic compounds, enzymatic or otherwise, that can react and interact with chakra weren't new. Chakra poisonous wouldn't exist if they were. However, there is a reason chakra is comprised of yin and yang. Enzymes can destabilize chakra and the subsequent reactions essentially override the intentional aspects of human chakra. The control people have is gone, given over to a purely natural reaction, be it a corrosion of the chakra network, or whatever the seal sought to do. Before Naruto could undo the seal, he'd need to find a way to neutralize the enzyme, but he'd have to identify the type of energy contained in the chakra first. He didn't know, but he hoped Jiraiya might. He called the Toad Sage over and gave him access to his projections, both the seals and the chemical breakdown of the sealing material. Jiraiya looked it all over before letting out a string of curses. Naruto waited for Jiraiya to finish, but Anko looked nervous, something Jiraiya picked up on. Sorry, Anko, didn't mean to worry you. That idiot tried to make a Sage Mode seal, one that could incorporate Senjutsu into whoever was marked. That wouldn't work. The enzyme is volatile to the energy, and due to the effects it leaves the host unable to regulate it as well, Naruto said. Exactly. He must have dabbled with Senjutsu, but never in any significant way. If I had to guess, whatever he managed to include in the seals wasn't perfectly balanced, which would only make things worse. What does that mean? Can you not remove it after all? Anko said in a slight panic. If I can find a way to neutralize or even momentarily stabilize the enzyme, I can remove the seal, Naruto answered to a pair of wide eyes. What? Gaki, you know a way to remove it? With the stipulation I put forward, I believe I do, yes. But I can't give a timetable. I don't want to give you false hope, Anko-chan. You haven't. I think we should get out of here and get to work. Don't want to leave a pretty lady in distress, Jiraiya said. I will get to work, but I'd be just as committed if you weren't beautiful, Anko-chan. I find that very reassuring, Blondie, Anko said with a laugh and watched as the pair departed. She understands the boy tried not to give her false hope, but it was hard not to imagine a future free of her seal, free of her past, free of Orochimaru. Naruto's mind was busy making plans as he exited the building with Jiraiya. He was going to have to shelve some of his projects until he figured this out. He summoned 20 clones to go to the hospital's labs to get to work on finding a counter to the enzyme. It also occurred to him that Jiraiya knew about the Senjutsu energy being utilized and may have a solution. He asked, and Jiraiya grimaced. I may, but I can't promise anything. Your best bet would be to continue down the path you're on. If you really can't come up with anything, I'll see what I can do. Why wait? If your way doesn't work, that's one thing, but why leave it as a last resort? I don't understand. It's complicated, Naruto. Just work on your end of things, get Sunade and Shizen to help if you can. You're being elusive for no reason and delaying helping someone that needs it. If your reasons are as good as you say, you just tell me. Naruto, I know this isn't easy, but just have faith, Jiraiya requested before leaving via Shunshin. Naruto had a small frown on his face, not believing this was entirely about Anko-chan's seal. Whatever it was, the Uzumaki didn't think it was worth the delay to free a fellow comrade. He put it out of his mind for now. He wanted to get some sleep before his plans for the night. Several hours later, Naruto and Haku were making their way to the Hyuga compound. Naruto was wearing a blue V-neck shirt, black pants and blue sandals. Haku was in an aquamarine floral print kimono with black, low-heel sandals. The two were chatting, Naruto telling her a little more about Hinata and the Hyuga when they saw Ino just ahead of them. Looking quite pained, the two increased their pace to catch up to the Yamanaka heiress. Ino-chan, what's wrong? Naruto asked. Asuma-sensei has increased the intensity of our training, she replied, though straining a little. Oh, I thought you said he was lazy. How did you convince him to train you more? The Yamanaka blushed, to Naruto's confusion. She really didn't want to share that particular story as it wasn't an exact highlight of her career. Asuma-sensei, you need to train us better. We're the weakest team of our graduating class. Ino nearly shouted, frustrated at Asuma's intransigence. She'd requested an increase in their training before, but he'd always just waved her off. Ino, you're just a genin. I want to ease you guys into this lifestyle, not have you burn out. What's the rush? The rush? The rush is I will not lose my virginity to Hinata Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki because I was too weak to stand up to that little psycho. Ino panted out, and then blushed. She went on to inform her team about what transpired and why she wanted to be stronger. Asuma, seeing this as a way to deny the Uzumaki a threesome, agreed. Naruto, aren't you going to introduce me to your guest? Ino said as a diversion. Oh, Yamanaka Ino-chan, this is Yuki Haku. It's nice to meet you, Ino-san. I understand I have you to thank for my wardrobe. Nice to meet you as well, and I'm glad you like it. It's not every day a toad with a wad of cash asks you to go shopping. Well, you have excellent taste, so I appreciate it. We're going to be great friends, Haku-san, I just know it. The now trio walked the rest of the way and was granted immediate entrance into the compound. As they followed their escort, they ran into the clan head, and Hinata's father, Hayashi. Ino and Haku bowed and offered polite greetings. Naruto did not. Good evening, Hyuga Hayashi-san. Hayashi wanted to roll his eyes at the boy. How he managed to be formal like Minato, and yet still give less than a shit about titles like Kushina was impressive. Some part of him wondered if he did it on purpose, but his face was as unreadable as any Hyuga. He felt he owed a debt to the Uzumaki for helping Hinata shed herself of her debilitating shyness, though the effects he's had on Hanabi have been less desirable. I will defeat you today, Uzumaki! Speaking of, Hayashi just sighed. His little girl used to be so dignified. Hanabi, that is not how we greet guests in this house. She rolled her eyes. His little girl rolled her eyes. Greetings to you all, even you Uzumaki team. Hanabi! Hinata exclaimed from behind her father and sister both. She won't always be here to protect you, Hanabi said and left in a huff. Naruto, what did you do to her? Ino asked. I beat her in a staring contest. Seeing the look of disbelief on their faces, Naruto just shrugged. He didn't exactly understand it either. Come this way, dinner will be served soon, Hinata said, and Hayashi watched as the young ninja went into a small dining room. He left them alone, instead choosing to talk to Hanabi about her crass behavior. The foursome settled in and shared dinner, while exchanging stories. Ino and Hinata were both curious about Naruto's C rank, either having been assigned one yet. Naruto relayed the details but made sure to include impressions and other things to make it more interesting, as several books on communication had suggested. He ended his story by focusing on the daughter and grandson of the client. So, she put together a picnic basket for Haku and I. And she hugged me a lot. She was really weird, Naruto concluded, to snickering from all the girls in the room. What? Naruto-kun, she was being motherly, and from what you said about Inari following you, she likely did so because her son found you so interesting. That was motherly? He got a trio of head nods. I guess it wasn't too bad. So, Haku, what are your plans? Ino asked. I honestly don't know. I haven't been able to be safe in one place for so long. I never imagined what I'd do if I did. I want to keep my skills sharp, but I don't know if I want to be a ninja. Without clan affiliation, that might be difficult. What about a reservist? You get the status, but you won't have to actively go on missions unless you want to, Ino suggested, and Haku smiled. That might work. I'll just need to find a job and then I'll be set. You can work with me, Haku, Naruto offered. He did need employees, after all. If I did, would you teach me Fuinjutsu? Naruto held out his hand. I believe we have an accord. No, fair, Naruto-kun. You never offered to teach me Fuinjutsu. Ino whined, only semi-joking. She'd come to know how good Naruto was at the art of sealing, and wouldn't mind a few tips. The cold glare from Hinata warned her she may have pushed it too far. You never asked, Ino-chan? Naruto observed, wondering if Ino had a problem with voicing her desires, as she seemed to expect him to know she wanted things without ever saying it. She's just joking, Naruto-kun. Besides, with her extra training to protect your maidenhood, she wouldn't have the time. Ino gaped. How did the little psycho know that? The smile Hinata gave her, akin to the cat that eyed the canary, made her uneasy. She did, eventually, relax, and the rest of the evening went by without incident. Haku and Naruto departed first, thanking Hinata for hosting and bidding Ino and she goodnight. It was only Ino and Hinata left, and both girls felt the need to clear the air. Ino-chan, I'm not some crazed lunatic. I don't enjoy intimidating you, but Naruto-kun is my best friend and has helped me in ways I can never repay. When you complain about things he hasn't given you, it makes him think he missed something a normal person would have noticed. I won't let you make me think poorly of himself. Ino sighed. She really hadn't considered how her teasing would be interpreted by Naruto. She had come to genuinely like him and had gotten used to how he was, to the point she'd sometimes forget he could be hurt by her being insensitive. You're right. I do consider Naruto a friend, and I think we can be as well if you stop scaring the hell out of me. I can try, Ino, but it won't work if you think poorly of me. You mean the psych dash? Like, why do you think I'd share your first time? Hinata giggled as she walked back into the compound, Ino staring in horror at the gates before cracking a smile. It appeared while she may not be able to tease Naruto just yet, the Hyuga was down to play. She smiled all the way home at the prospect of having another female friend, not really having one since Sakura and she fell out. Tenzo overlooked his charges as they were engaged in a fearsome battle. It made the longtime Anbu agent smile, recalling his early days of hard training with his peers, pushing each other to be better. The boys' sessions had become increasingly intense, but there was an undercurrent of trust. They never injured each other in any significant way, so them pushing their limits together was fine. It was difficult to accurately judge Sai's full skill set as he was trained by Danzo-sama, but he could tell Naruto was growing by leaps and bounds, even with his resistance seals still active. The boys were exchange fists with fluid movement. One would strike, the other would parry and counter-strike, only for that to be dodged. Time and time again, it was a ballet of violence. However, Sai managed to sneak in a right hook that sent Naruto tumbling back. The Root wasted no time in pursuing his target, but Naruto was not as open as Sai had expected. Sai leapt in with a kick, which Naruto avoided. Sai landed and pivoted, unleashing a roundhouse. Naruto narrowly dodged the attack and the follow-up roundhouse, retaliating with a spin kick of his own. Sai was hit on the chin and sent flying. Naruto came in with a flying stomp, but Sai rolled out of the way, retrieving a kunai as he did. He rushed back in and the exchange of hands continued. Sai came in with an overhead stab. Naruto used his opposite hand to perform a slap block on Sai's wrist, causing Sai's grip to loosen. Naruto slid his hand up and swatted the kunai into the air, continuing his offense by punching at Sai 3 times. The 2 palm strikes landed, the third was interrupted when Sai kicked Naruto away and smoothly caught his kunai. Not stopping his motion, Sai performed a leg sweep, taking Naruto off his feet. The Uzumaki didn't rest. Predicting another attack, he performed a handstand and spun away from Sai's offensive, coming to his feet and having taken out his own kunai from his leg holster. The boys were engaging again, sparks from where their kunai met visibly to any that watched. In a moment of improvisation, Naruto jumped at Sai, placing both hands on his shoulders while perform a handstand and continuing to flip over the Root ninja. He landed behind Sai and mule kicked him. Sai tumbled forward but was able to meet Naruto's charge and tossed the blonde on the ground. Naruto responded with a kick to Sai's midsection and it back him off, giving Naruto a chance to attack some more. Sai, mimicking Naruto, performed a side flip over the charging blonde and hit Naruto in the face when he turned to face Sai. Naruto returned with a jumping front kick, clipping Sai in the chin, and then performed a series of hand signs, unleashing a wind-style, great breakthrough jutsu. Sai dodged the attack and closed the distance between Naruto and he, hitting Naruto in the solar plexus, following with a kick to the midsection and ending with his kunai pointed at his downed opponent. Naruto looked up and nodded at Sai, acknowledgement of his defeat, and the Root ninja helped up his friend. The two made the seal of reconciliation and then flopped on the ground. Do they normally go that hard? Kakashi asked as he sat beside Tenzo, eye on his book, but Tenzo knew his senpai had seen every second of the spar. It's been escalating as Naruto has improved. Are you concerned? About Naruto's safety? No, you wouldn't be here unless Sandaime-sama ordered it, so I trust he isn't in any danger. But he is much better at direct combat than I thought. Kakashi mused. He knew Naruto was physically superior to his teammates, but he still assumed Sasuke had the technical advantage. It appeared that was no longer the case. Just more evidence his team was unbalanced. So, what will they do now? It depends. Sometimes it is ninjutsu training, sometimes it devolves into a book club, and other times they work on their respective art. As Tenzo was answering, he sensed a presence approaching. While quiet, said person was not quiet enough to avoid Anbu detection. He saw it was a long-haired young woman, mid-teens at the oldest, holding a snow rabbit. She had on a dark blue shirt and skirt to match. Good morning, Naruto. And Sai, I presume? Good morning, Haku. Hello, Haku-san. Naruto spoke of you briefly, but you are not what I expected, Sai said. Oh, I hope I haven't disappointed. No, not disappointed. It's just, with Hinata-san, Shizen-san, and Sunade-sama, I assumed Naruto preferred his women bustier. Haku showed no hesitation in throwing several senbon at Sai, most hitting his legs and making the Root ninja collapse. Haku wore a frown, but it was undercut by her light blush. I guess that was something I shouldn't have said. Sai concluded and saw Naruto nod in agreement. Besides, I like Haku's breasts. Haku's blush increased and Naruto would swear he heard stifled laughs coming from the trees. He just ignored it, carefully moving the samban from Sai and hoping this wouldn't become a repeat occurrence. Chapter 9. Hiruzen looked at Naruto intently, as if some hidden secret lied just beneath the boy's emotionless gaze. Truly, he was just happy that his grandson didn't ask him another sex question. He could do without that for a while, though him having sex questions and going to Jiraiya or Kakashi scared him. However, those concerns could wait for another time. Naruto had requested Hiruzen's advice on something the professor was quite experienced in, teaching Dot as Naruto explained it. This Haku girl wanted to be his assistant as well as a reservist in the ninja corps. One condition was Naruto would teach her Fuinjutsu. A reasonable request and a skill that would take years to master, unless that is, Naruto was also a genius at teaching Fuinjutsu. Hiruzen didn't know if he should hope he was or pray that he wasn't. As Hiruzen gathered his thoughts, he reminisced about his time teaching his team. It was truly one of the best times of his life, even if it ultimately ended in one of his greatest regrets. He shook off the morose thoughts and finally answered Naruto. Well, Naruto-kun, teaching is truly one of the most difficult tasks to undertake, and it is often the case the easier you find a subject the harder it is for you to teach it. Your intuitive grasp on the subject blinds you to the areas other people struggle with. It can take time to find your teaching style but also learn to be adaptive enough to the learning styles of your students. It shames me to say this, but I initially was not a very good sensei to Jiraiya-kun because of that very dynamic. What do I do? Communicate. Explain things as you understand them but listen to what Haku has absorbed. It is often the case that what we are teaching and what our chargers learn are not the same, but if you are patient with each other and diligent, I believe you can be an excellent instructor. Just be patient with your student and yourself, and know if you run into difficulties you can come to me or seek advice from Sunade or Jiraiya, as they both have years of teaching complex, highly technical disciplines. Or Hataki-sensei? Yes, even him. Hiruzen replied with a chuckle. Naruto nodded. Now, how is your other project going? Not well, Naruto said evenly, but Hiruzen could read a level of frustration in his words. It had only been 2 weeks, but even with Sunade's help, they hadn't been able to find a counteragent to the compound. Keep at it, Naruto-kun. I know you want to help Anko, but don't burn yourself out in the attempt, okay? I'll try, Aji-san. Good, my boy. Now, as you know, you'll be touring the facility that makes your Fuin bracelets at the end of the week. The rest of your team will be taking a C rank during that time, but I have a special jounin assigned to escort you. Naruto had requested to see the facility, and Hiruzen figured the boy could update the security while there. He would send Jiraiya, but the man was out collecting intelligence. Besides, Hiruzen had seen the tension between his student and grandson and figured Jiraiya was giving Naruto space. Naruto nodded again, and then departed, saying goodbye to his Aji-san as he made his way to Ichiraku Ramen. Hataki-sensei had given him a few days off as he focused on Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto didn't mind, he had plenty of people to train with. One such person was actually sitting at the ramen stand as he arrived. Hello, Haku. Sorry if I'm late. Hi, Naruto-kun, you aren't, I'm just early. As Naruto sat, he saw Ayame approach with a smile on her face. Welcome, Naruto-kun. What will you have to today? Hello, Ayame-san. Naruto never got to finish as the girl leapt halfway across the stand and grabbed his cheeks, pulling them in opposite directions. I am Nichin, she said slowly. Hi, I am Nichin. Good, now what will you have? The usual, Naruto said as he rubbed his cheeks. Haku giggled as it was the most childlike she'd ever seen her friend. It didn't surprise her as Naruto frequented the ramen stand regularly, and the young woman before her was also warm and inviting, especially with Naruto. Haku knew there was a story there but would ask later. She just enjoyed seeing Naruto be treated like a normal 12-year-old from time to time. Tsunade entered her office, her mind abuzz. It had been one of several therapy sessions, and she always needed time to decompress afterward. It was difficult to fight the regret of not having done this sooner, as it didn't take long to uncover it was more than just the deaths of Dan and Nawaki that weighed on the last Senju. While she did still mourn them and feel like a failure, there were layers to her grief. She often felt like a hypocrite, not being able to move on from their deaths when she was one of the most prolific killers in modern shinobi history. How many lovers and siblings did she take from people? How many grieving family members did she send to the bottom of an endless bottle because drunken stupors hurt less than sobriety? How could she be lauded as a medic with so much blood on her hands? She'd existed in a duality, one most medics after her could avoid. She felt alone in many respects, as the fractured parts of herself were in constant conflict. At least they were before. It was not fast. Healing the mind didn't happen instantly, but slowly Sunade was finding a way to become whole again, to accept all of her, good and bad. She'd already almost overcome her hemophobia, projecting a return to surgery soon. She'd even been seriously training with Shizen again, allowing herself to feel genuine joy and not have it torn asunder by overwhelming guilt. The Senju started on her paperwork, thankful her burden wasn't anywhere near her sensei's. She worked methodically, paying attention to the budgeting reports, preliminary plans for the medic training program, and the new security clearances. Those had been slow, medics taking a backseat to the frontline Jounin and Anbu, but progress was being made and most of the senior staff had been cleared. Sunade heard a knock at the door and gave permission to enter. She smiled to see it was Shizen on the other side, with Tenten strutting in at her feet. "I figured you might want some tea before you started your day, Sunade-sama," Shizen said before placing the mug down on the desk of her longtime teacher. "Thank you, Shizen." Oink. "And you too, Tenten," Sunade said with a laugh. "How was your session?" Shizen inquired. "Hard but good. I only wish I'd done this sooner. Things could have been different," Sunade lamented. "Things can be different now. I like to focus on that." "That's very wise, Shizen. How'd that happen?" "I had a good teacher. She showed me what not to do." "Har har har. Keep it up and I might start telling people how you cried when you couldn't revive the fish." "Sunade-sama, that's not remotely true," Shizen protested, and Sunade simply shrugged. "It doesn't have to be true to be believed." Sunade expected Shizen to back down, but the dangerous glint in her student's eyes warned that wouldn't be the case. "Do that and I'll tell you've started reading Ika Ika." "You wouldn't." "I would, Sunade-sama." "Fine, but one day I will get legitimate blackmail material on you," Sunade threatened, frustrated that throughout their years she'd never caught Shizen doing anything legitimately embarrassing. Shizen laughed it off as she departed from the office. Having the goods on a Sannin was fun. "They don't look like much," Tenten observed dryly. Ma, Tenten-chan, they're still fresh." "You remember when you were just a few months out from the academy, yes?" Kakashi asked, but didn't expect an answer. He was glad he'd forced Sakura to train with Naruto in the mornings, or this may have truly been a sad sight. Kakashi requested a replacement genin for the upcoming mission, and Guy was kind enough to volunteer his soul kunoichi to the cause. Kakashi appreciated it as she was well trained, disciplined and normal, unlike his other two students. "Sha, who the hell are you?" Sakura yelled. "Tenten, member of Team 9 and future weapons mistress. I'm a little offended you don't know. Your other teammate offers to bed me but doesn't talk about me? I feel unappreciated." "Kakashi, why is she here?" Sasuke asked in his usual blunt manner. "We'll be taking another C rank at the end of the week, only without Naruto. Tenten-chan will be replacing him. She'll train with us for a few days so we can all get to know each other." "HN. What does HN mean?" "Look, I've already got one pretty boy prodigy to adapt to. I'm not learning a new language for you." "Use whole words," Tenten said and meant it. She may like Niji, but he could also be trying, and she didn't care enough about the Uchiha to go through that. Sasuke was simply surprised a girl around his age told him off, slightly or otherwise. He decided he didn't like it. "I don't take orders from second-rate kunoichi." Sasuke immediately felt something cool move swiftly across his cheek, and then the sting associated with a cut while hearing a thud. He turned to see a kunai lodged into the tree behind him. He turned back around to face Tenten, a scowl forming on his face, and saw she had several more kunai in each hand. "I don't take shit from rookies," Tenten started before a smirk formed on her lips. "Especially not from those who aren't even the strongest on their team." She suspected the Uchiha was a lot like Niji, too much pride to be controlled but just enough to be manipulated. Sasuke accepted the unspoken challenge and charged at the older kunoichi. Kakashi allowed them to hash out their differences but would prevent serious injury to either party, should the need arise. Until then, he had a book to read. A minute into the impromptu spar and Sasuke was frustrated. Tenten negated his speed and taijutsu by keeping him at a distance. Every strategy he used to get closer was negated, and he was littered with small nicks and cuts. It was as if she'd seen it all before and just knew where to throw those damn kunai. He was losing his patience and considering unleashing some fire jutsu to teach her a lesson. Instead, he conceded. He had, initially, insulted her and she'd proven herself. He hated losing, but there was no point in escalating this further, not when he was wrong. I give you in. And I'm sorry for insulting you, Sasuke said, and the kunoichi nodded in recognition, neither taunting nor gloating. That was quite the display. It appears we'll have to start training you on how to deal with long-range opponents, Sasuke-kun, Kakashi said, having just joined them. Now patch yourself up and take a short break. We'll start our team training in 10 minutes. Haku was impressed at the quantities Naruto managed to consume at the small ramen stand, though none of the other parties in attendance found it remarkable in the least, treating it as normal. The duo left the stand, after settling the tab and Naruto making sure to address Ayam appropriately lest he wanted his cheeks pinched again. Haku followed Naruto as he opted to take her to his preferred training ground for her first lesson. The two moved in companionable silence, but something was tempting Haku to tense that she couldn't put her finger on it, but she felt she was being watched, something at the edge of her perception. It didn't have the feel of seasoned shinobi, but years with Zabuza-sama had taught her to trust her feelings. She didn't have to wait long as three slow-moving blurs made their way directly toward them. Naruto made two clones in response and snatched all three out the air, maneuvering them into piggyback rides. "Ni-chan!" a small boy said excitedly. "Boss!" the other two cheered. "Haku, this is Kono-chan and these are his friends Moegi and Udan. You three, say hello to Haku." "Hi, Haku-san," the three greeted in unison. "Oh, so you're the notorious prankster trio. Naruto-kun has told me about your exploits." All three gained a slight blush at her words. "You talk about us, Niken?" "Yes," Naruto said as his clones and he continued on to the training ground. "Why are you three not at the academy?" "We didn't have class today," Konohamaru answered. "You know I'll check with Irika-sensei, yes?" "Hi. I wouldn't lie to you, again," Konohamaru said, recalling the one time he was less than honest with Naruto. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and he swore to himself to never do it again. "Besides, I never get to see you anymore. I send a clone for you regularly, Kono-chan." "It's not the same," the young Sarutobi said in protest. He didn't want a clone, he wanted his big brother. I'll keep that in mind." "Yay! So, what are you going to teach us today?" "Actually, I have plans with Haku, so I can't teach you anything today. Maybe they could join us since it'd just be the basics," Haku offered after seeing the three children start to pout. Naruto said nothing as he considered her alternative. "I could, but if I'm going to teach you three Fuinjutsu, you have to promise me to practice your calligraphy every day and never set off a seal without allowing me to check over it first." "Deal," Konohamaru said, answering for the trio. "Okay, hold on," was all the warning the kids got as the three Narutos performed a shunshin with Haku following close behind. "You gotta teach me how to wield those. I ain't gotta do nothing. Please." "No. Guys, back me up here," Ino shouted. Team 10 were returning from a C-rank mission. It was a simple mission. Messengers from a private delivery service had been ambushed multiple times along various roadways. Team 10 was supposed to trigger one and gain intel on if someone was selling information or organizing the bandits themselves. Somehow, word got to the party in question as they had far greater numbers for Team 10. While all members had to fight, Asuma dispatched of most of the enemy with his knuckle knives. Ino was instantly enamored and proceeded to request, beg, and plead with Asuma to teach her. He'd been unwilling to do so. "Troublesome, I want no part in this," Shikamaru stated. "I don't see the harm, Asuma-sensei," Choji replied. "See, Choji is on my side." "Yeah, don't care. You don't need these, besides it is highly unlikely you have a wind or lightning affinity." "So what?" Ino shouted. She couldn't understand why it was so difficult to get this man to teach her things. She didn't have any offensive ninjutsu yet, or defensive. She was getting better with her taijutsu, but this would certainly give her a leg up. "Ino, there is no need to rush. Firm up your basics before you start adding on new things," Asuma answered. He saw the Yamanaka start to retort before she stopped herself. "How about a bet?" "A bet?" "Yep. If in our next training sessions I can beat both Shikamaru and Choji at the same time, you'll teach me how to use those knives." "And what do I get if you lose?" "What do you want?" "You have to clean my apartment for a month, laundry included." "It's a deal. I have no incentive to participate in this," Shikamaru points out. "You only think I'm troublesome, Shika. You want to see what that looks like when I try." Ino asked, threateningly. What a drag. Buy me some barbecue and I'm good, Choji added. I'm sorry your lesson got interrupted, Haku. It was fine, Naruto-kun. I feel I still learned a lot even with you helping them. Besides, it's cute how much they look up to you. They do? Naruto asked in mild confusion. I think so, especially Konohamaru. It wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to learn Fuinjutsu simply because he knows his big brother is good at it. But shouldn't he want to do things he's good at? Yes, but sometimes when you care about someone and admire them you want to do some of the things they do. I'll never be a kenjutsu user, but my stealth and silent killing skills are due to Zabuza-sama. I wanted to learn the things he excelled at. Oh, was all Naruto could say to that. He could somewhat relate. His Aji-san was his inspiration for wanting to be the Hokage someday, but he just assumed he had to do it his own way, although the more he thought about it the more he realized his various sensei weren't just teaching him skills but the skills they trained hard to perfect, the things they felt were important. So, it's like a legacy? Naruto asked. Exactly, and no matter what you do, a small part of you lives on through your students and their students. Because of you, there may always be people who understand Fuinjutsu as a way for chakra to communicate with the world and not just a method of fighting. I think I like that, Naruto said after giving it some thought. Would you teach me something? I can, but why? Because that way, no matter what, I'll always have a part of you and spread your legacy. That's very sweet, Naruto-kun. Naruto looked back at her mildly puzzled. He wasn't trying to be sweet, but he shrugged. He'd have to ask his Aji-san about that later. The two continued until they reached their respective apartments, both bidding farewell. Haku would spend the day thinking about what to teach Naruto. Naruto would split his time preparing for the new mission and trying to unravel the last mystery of Anko's curse seal. Green eyes stared into blue, either blinking. Inoichi was not at all pleased to see the Uzumaki darken his door. That the boy seemed completely unbothered by Inoichi's stern gaze only added to his annoyance, but what put Inoichi over the top was Naruto's answer to Inoichi's question. I'm here for your daughter, Yamanaka Inoichi-san. Oh, and would you like to pay a visit to my wife after you finish up? Inoichi questioned, sarcastically. Naruto, however, didn't answer, wondering if Mrs. Yamanaka had a sealing or medical-related need, but simply walked past the clan leader. Hinata messaged him saying Ino was in need of assistance, so he came over immediately. Seeing he wasn't going to answer, Inoichi spoke again. Ino is in her room, upstairs and to the left. Thank you, Yamanaka-san, the Uzumaki said before departing to his final destination. When arrived to Ino's room, knocking at the closed door, he was mildly surprised when the door flew open and a near-frantic Ino pulled him into her bedroom and deposited him on her bed. He saw Hinata give a smile, but it wasn't her normal smile, so he didn't know if this was amusing or what. I'm glad you're here, Naruto-kun. I'm in need of assistance, and Hinata-chan said you would be able to provide it. I said Naruto-kun might have an idea to help you since your mouth got you in trouble, Ino-chan. The Hyuga corrected. Same diff, Ino replied while shrugging, and then immediately returned to her near-panic state. As Hinata said, you're my only hope. Said declaration caused Hinata to stare at Ino blankly, wondering if the girl had the power to deny reality as she saw fit. Naruto simply sat in silence. Ino, having gotten a little more familiar with Naruto speak, which included a lot of silence and blank stares, concluded he was waiting for her to tell him the actual problem, as his presence signaled his willingness to try to help. She learned Naruto didn't state the obvious. Okay, so here's my problem. On our most recent C-rank mission some things went pear-shaped. We handled it, but during combat, I saw Asuma-sensei using these knuckle knives and it looked so cool. Of course, I begged him to teach me. I mean, I'm so behind. Even Forehead Girl might be getting ahead of me since she trains with you, right? Sakura-san's rate of progress has been within the range of expectation. See, that's totally Naruto-kun speak for that walking billboard is getting stronger. I just want an edge, an ace that no one suspects, and it would aid in my taijutsu. These are all good points, Ino-chan, but I don't see how I can convince Asuma-san to train you. Oh, no, that's not what I need help with. I challenged Asuma-sensei. I said if I could beat with Shikamaru and Choji at the same time he'd have to train me, and he agreed. The problem is, Shikamaru is sick smart, maybe even smarter than Sakura and you. Choji is a sweetheart, but he's a tank. I could wail on him all day and he wouldn't really feel it. Only Sasuke-kun, Kiba and you were able to actually hurt him in the academy. Separately they'd be a challenge, but together, I'm totally screwed. I was hoping you'd have some advice or maybe a super seal to win it for me. So what do you say? Want to whip out that ink and paper for your dear Ino-chan? When is your challenge? Naruto asked. 3 days. Asuma-sensei gave us 2 days off and we settled the bet on our return. So, will you help me? Yes. Naruto started, only to be interrupted. But I won't give you any seals. The Uzumaki finished. What? Why? Come on, you could totally trap them in something or other, it'd be easy. Ino whined. Possibly, but this is not my challenge, Ino-chan, it is yours. This is a chance for you to improve and I wouldn't be a good friend if I took that away from you. Ino wanted to beg some more but the slight hint of smugness on Hinata's face told her all she needed to know. You knew he'd say no, didn't you? Yes, Hinata answered, not hiding her pleasure. But it doesn't mean we can't help you, Ino-chan. We just won't solve your problem for you. Ino huffed before resigning herself. Fine, what can I do? What are the rules of this challenge, Ino-chan? Probably just standard sparring rules. Asuma-sensei didn't stipulate anything before we left. Oh, okay. Then the challenge has already started, Naruto observed, causing Ino to look at him in apparent confusion. No, Naruto-kun, we fight Friday. No, you only have to appear to win on Friday, Ino-chan. That doesn't mean you can't take steps to secure your victory in the meantime. Ideally, both Shikamaru and Choji should be doing the same. But it's just a spar. No, Ino-chan, it's an assassination mission with the requirement the client watch you make the kill at a specific time. Why? Outside of your agreement with Asuma-san and the laws of Konoha, you are free to act without violating the terms of your agreement. It would be irresponsible of you not to seek every advantage, Ino-chan. As my Aji-san says, if a shinobi finds themselves in a fair fight, they've done something wrong. Ino gaped at Naruto's words, wondering if this is how he thought about things, seeing training through the lens of future missions or the ethics of a shinobi. The statement was brief but the effects would be profound. Ino felt small and immature, wondering if that was why Asuma-sensei didn't want to train her more. She was too linear, too small in her thinking. She was worried about winning on the day of the spar. It was stupid, the reasoning of an academy student out of course. He wouldn't want to teach her intermediate skills, she was still pretending to be a ninja. She should have seen the fight as occurring the very moment Asuma-sensei agreed to the bet. And worse yet, she expected her friend to just solve her problems so she could get what she wanted. The Yamanaka heiress hung her head in shame, much to Naruto's confusion. Hinata, however, knew exactly what was happening as she was quite familiar with the looks of shame and self-criticism present in Ino's body language. Ino jumped a little when she felt arms encircle her but quickly eased into the hug. It's okay, Ino-chan. Of our graduating class, Shino-kun is likely the only other one to come to such a conclusion. We're still learning and you've done nothing wrong. I didn't mean to make you feel bad, Ino-chan, Naruto added. He had thought he was helping but was concerned he might have done the opposite. You have. I'm just embarrassed I've been so immature about this. Could you stay a little bit and help me brainstorm a plan? Of course, Ino-chan. The trio would stay in Ino's room and listen to her formulate plans, only offering feedback. This went on for 20 minutes before Naruto's eyes briefly glazed over. That was followed by Inoichi storming into the room, red-faced and breathing heavily. The man looked apoplectic. Get out, you damn brat! Get out right now! The Yamanaka clan had started shouting, only to be cut off by his wife. Inoichi, you leave that sweetheart of a boy alone! Daddy, why are you yelling at Naruto-kun? He's been here the entire time. He was in my bedroom with your mother. The two heiresses turned to look at Naruto, who didn't seem all that concerned about the jounin yelling at him. He assumed his friends wanted an explanation and he didn't mind as he'd only done what Inoichi-san asked on him. As Naruto got to the top of the stairs he created a shadow clone. If Inoichi-san's wife needed help it wouldn't do to make her wait. Assuming Inoichi-san's bedroom was at the opposite end of the hallway, Naruto sent the clone that way and continued on to his initial destination. The clone traveled the short distance to the presumed bedroom and knocked. Why yes? Was the pained response. Hello Yamanaka-san, I'm Uzumaki. Naruto and Inoichi-san requested I see about you. Oh, then come in. She responded and Naruto entered. The room was dark, on the light of a dimmed lamp shone, but Naruto could see the Yamanaka propped up on the bed, looking on in discomfort. Naruto didn't hesitate to follow the protocols instilled in him by Sunade-sensei and Shizen-senpai. As I stated, I am Uzumaki Naruto and am currently a C-rank medical ninja. Can you tell me what seems to be bothering you, Yamanaka-san? Emiko, dear. Hi. And what's bothering me is my back. This is all so silly. I was reaching down to pick something up and felt an intense pain in my lower right side. It was agony for the first 2 days, now it is simply mind-numbing. I told Inoichi-kun I just needed a few days' rest, not a trained medic. Not even one of Ino's cute friends. Saying the last part with a wink. Naruto smiled in response before continuing. How long ago was the initial incident? 3 days ago. Do you ever feel numbness or shooting pain in your legs? Only if I stand too long. I know this will not be comfortable, but do you think you could roll over on your stomach so I can check your back? Emiko, with Naruto's help, removed the covers from her, revealing she was in a floral print nightgown. She winced as she rolled over but managed to do so. Naruto activated his diagnostic jutsu, and it confirmed his suspicion. You've herniated a disc in your lower back, Emiko-san. Oh, can you do anything? Yes. It is not severe enough to require surgery and is therefore within my current skill level. One problem is that while bed rest is initially good, after a day or two it becomes harmful. The muscles in your back have tightened and tense, making you stiff. That will prolong the recovery time. I can help with that too, but I would need you to expose your back to me. And I'll feel better when you're done? Hi. I would only suggest you follow up with another medic tomorrow as they may undergo further healing or recommend physical therapy. Okay, let's do it. Would you like a towel or a sheet to cover your lower body? And no, that won't be necessary. Naruto said no more as he gently lifted the back of Emiko's nightgown and exposed her lower back and cotton panties. Naruto noticed she had 2 dimples above her butt and thought it an attractive feature. He made a note to apologize to Haku for being skeptical about her aversion of showing her lower back. He also, idly, wondered if Ino-chan would develop similar features as she aged. Assuming she hadn't had them already. None of these thoughts lasted long, nor did they delay Naruto from his responsibilities. He started treatment immediately, engaging a healing jutsu, though not the fabled mystic palm technique as he hadn't received the proper rank to learn it yet. However, due to the potency of his chakra and the Fuinjutsu enabled fine chakra control, even basic healing jutsu worked faster for him than most. In only 10 minutes the disc had been repaired and Naruto started on relaxing her muscles with a therapeutic massage. Naruto started on Emiko's lower back before slowing, sending his hands up the outside of back and gently down either side of her spine. He did this for several minutes until he felt the muscle groupings in her back had warmed up, and then he focused on any sources of tension or knotting he could find, gentle working them loose. He knew he was on the right track as Emiko would offer hums or coos of pleasure. When Naruto ran across a particularly tough knot at her shoulder blades, Emiko encouraged the blonde to be a little more forceful. Yes, right there, Naruto-kun. Don't be shy. Were the words Inoichi heard as he entered his bedroom, only to be followed by an "ah," as his wife sounded as if something deeply satisfying had occurred. Seeing a small blonde on top of his wife was the final spark to Inoichi's temper. What the hell are you doing to my wife, boy? Paying her a visit, as you requested, Naruto said neutrally, a little confused at Inoichi's surprise. That only further incensed Inoichi, who was about to start yelling at the blonde. Naruto, remembering Shizen-senpai told him that sometimes family members would delay treatment as they became emotional, decided to restrain the confusing clan leader. Inoichi didn't notice the paralysis and suppression seals forming in the room until after they had latched on to him. The part of him that was still objective was impressed the boy could manifest seals with his feet. Every other part of him found the little blonde bastard to be smug and arrogant. Naruto returned to his patient, asking her about her current pain level. There was none. He requested she stand, and she did with no problem. He then repeated his request she seek another medical ninja tomorrow before dispelling, ending the restriction seals placed on Inoichi. The man wasted no time charging to Ino's room, ready to strangle that Uzumaki. It took Ino and Emiko both to calm Inoichi down, as the respective Yamanaka women believed he was being irrational. This feeling was only solidified by the facts that Inoichi asked Naruto to go to Emiko and the blonde did help her. He begrudgingly apologized for his behavior as he escorted Naruto and Hinata out. Naruto then offered to walk Hinata home and the Hyuga gladly accepted. The pair walked in silence for much of the way to the Hyuga compound until Hinata spoke as they turned on the final street. Naruto-kun? Yes, Hinata-chan? It was nice of you healing Emiko-san, but you shouldn't give your services away for free. Hinata watched as Naruto tilted his head to the side and thought before donning a small smile briefly. In a sense, she did pay me. Oh, and what's your going rate? Hinata asked, the duo approaching the main entrance to her compound. She let me see her panties. Hinata stopped right at her gate, the Hyuga guards holding their greeting. Naruto couldn't place the look on her face initially until it became one of resolve. Well, that might be a problem should I ever need your medical skills. Oh, why so? Naruto asked. Hinata, without hesitation, leaned close and whispered in Naruto's ear. Because I don't wear any. She swiftly turned on her heels and entered her home. Uzumaki-san, are you okay? One of the guards asked as the boy merely stood before them with a half-lidded gaze. Databeo, was his only response before he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Chapter 10. Grunts of exertion could be heard as Haku attempted to see to her duties. Just as she was diligent in being Zabuza-sama's tool, she'd be the very best assistant she could for Naruto-kun. It was why she was here, dressed in a dark blue kimono, with a mesh shirt underneath, open-toed heels similar to Sunade's and her new headband holding back her onyx locks. You, personally, have a light day today, Naruto-kun. After training with Sakura-san, you have a couple of hours free before your first meeting. Ugh! Haku heard as a shadow clone kneed Sakura in the stomach. The construction crew? Naruto continued, seemingly unbothered by his teammate's grunt of pain. Hi, the construction crew. As a reminder, this is them pitching you so they will do most of the talking, but I did leave a note card with a few questions you may want to ask them on your desk. Speaking of, have you considered renting office space? Working out of your apartment may become untenable given what all you do. I plan to have one built during the building remodel, along with a ceiling chamber. Makes sense. The meeting shouldn't last more than an hour. After that, Shizen-san has requested you make a personal appearance to the hospital in addition to the clones you normally send, not in replacement of. I made sure to ask. Did she give any specifics? No, but she said it shouldn't interfere with your availability for anything else today. Okay, what else? You have that last meeting scheduled at 1, but there is still time to cancel dash. Haku attempted to caution but was, uncharacteristically, interrupted. He has been given a chance to be straight with me, Haku. I understand, Naruto-kun, but I still think this might be going too far. No one is getting hurt by what I'm doing. He can't make the same claim. To your knowledge, but you don't know that, on either claim. True, but I will continue on. Haku sighed but proceeded. After that, the rest of your day is cleared for training. I will start your Saban training at 2, Sai-sen will be free at 4 o'clock. Anything else? Your clones are scheduled to dispel, some at 3, some at 6, and the last at 9. Okay. Will you be free for dinner tonight? Chappie and I will arrive at 8. Haku said with a smile. Arg, damn it, Naruto. Sakura yelled, getting up off the ground and marching over to her teammate. The shadow clone dispelled and Naruto got the memories of her performance. What's the problem, Sakura-san? The problem is I'm here to train with you, not some freaking clone. Also, what's your problem with me? Why was that thing being so hard on me today? You kept leaving the same hole in your stance. I've pointed it out before, but you've yet to correct it, so I thought maybe a direct consequence could help. Better I do than an enemy. Besides, since I will not be on your upcoming mission, this is the best I can do to protect you, Sakura-san. At first, irritated by his words, Sakura quickly calmed down. He wasn't wrong and it was sweet he was doing it to help her improve. Still hurt though. Can you do something about the pain? Sure, come he dash. I believe that would be a mistake, Naruto-kun. Haku spoke, causing both Naruto and Sakura to look at her, one neutrally, one in annoyance. For your lesson to truly stick, she must live with the consequence. If you remove the pain, you remove the lesson. Sakura gained a tick mark, but Naruto tilted his head to the side, considering her words. Haku's point seemed sound and Naruto didn't want Sakura-san to backslide because he was misguided in his kindness. With a firm nod, Naruto spoke. I agree with Haku, Sakura-san. I know my clone held back, so while it may hurt, you aren't injured and can continue with your duties. What? Naruto, just come heal me. Sakura-san, I suggest you lower your voice and never raise it to Naruto-kun in my presence again. Haku said with a warm smile, but Sakura saw a threatening glint in her eyes. A part of her wanted to acquiesce, another wanted to reject it, and challenge the older girl to do something about it. Before she could, however, the trio were interrupted by a fast-moving dust cloud and a pair of booming shouts. filled the surrounding area as two green blurs and the resulting dust stopped right in front of Naruto and Haku. Yash, most youthful Naruto-kun, good morning! And to you as well! Guy said, greeting the younger ninja. Good morning, Guy-sensei. Morning, Mato-san. Sakura was still quiet, dumbfounded by the scene, and Lee noticed her silence. Hello? You must be the lovely Sakura-chan. I am Rock Lee, Konoha's beautiful green wild beast, Lee announced. Would you like to go out with me? I'll protect you with my life. This is way too much, way too early. I'm sorry, Lee-san, I'm interested in someone else. Lee looked down for a bit before his eyes started burning with determination. Naruto-kun has clearly taken the lead for your heart, and while that may never change, I look forward to showing you my worth, Yash. And no, it's not Naruto! Sakura screamed, shaking in rage. Guy decided to move on before the pinkette dissolved. Naruto-kun, I understand you are not training with my rival this week, as Tenten-chan has temporarily replaced you. How would you like to join us for the day? Guy asked while in his nice guy pose. I, unfortunately, have plans throughout the day, but I am free now. Did you hear that, Lee-kun? We will elevate your flames of youth and Naruto-kun's as well. Let's start with a spirited run to our training grounds and move on from there. I can barely contain my excitement, Guy-sensei. I am exploding with youthful power. What about you, Naruto-kun? Lee asked, adopting his own nice guy pose. I don't feel combustion is imminent, no. Lee dipped his head briefly before raising it again with a blinding smile. This must be the hip attitude you often mention, Guy-sensei. If I had not already selected one, I would accept you as my lifetime rival. Naruto-kun for coolness cannot defeat the flames of youth. Well said, Lee-kun. Let us run like the wind, Yash. Guy took off, Lee close behind, and Naruto swiftly followed suit, catching up to the taijutsu users. The two kunoichi watched the three leave, Haku smiling at the odd exchange and Sakura still confused, until she remembered Haku's last words. Haku-san, do you have a problem with me? Sakura inquired. Yes, she answered swiftly. Naruto-kun was only trying to help you, and instead of being appreciative of his efforts you berate him as if he'd wronged you. He may not take personal offense, but I do on his behalf. Find a different outlet to vent your frustrations than targeting someone you know won't fight back. I don't do that. Yes, you do. You even did so in Nami, but that stops now. How is any of this your business? He's my teammate, and if he has a problem he can say so. I'm his assistant, and more importantly, his friend. So, I will repeat, find a better outlet for your frustrations. Yeah, what if I take them out on you? Sakura said in annoyance, only to hear a delicate laugh. You fight like a pillow-fisted gorilla, Sakura-san. You're years away from being a threat to me, Haku said, and then vacated the training ground via shunshin. Sakura only gaped at the final remarks of the older girl. Soon a fit of burning anger took hold and Sakura abused the nearing training post in response. She'd stay there until time to meet her team. Nara stared intently at a Yamanaka. Yoshino was sure she'd misheard Ino's request. It was quite early, and she may not have been fully alert. She was also surprised that Ino had even come here at this hour. That would explain it. Her mind simply hadn't processed Ino's words correctly. There was no way Emiko's little girl was asking her to drug her own child. No way. Ino-chan, I'm not sure I'm understanding you, Yoshino said, and heard the heiress huff. Ino had come by early, as Shikamaru hadn't even awoken yet, to speak to Yoshino. While unusual, it wasn't odd, as their families had been close for generations and Yoshino was something of an aunt to Ino. I want you to put this. She waved a vial of clear liquid. In Shikamaru's drink tomorrow night. It's a stimulant, like really potent caffeine, but that's it. And this is a training assignment? Yes, Yoshino Abakan. I have to be honest, we're the weakest team of our graduating class. I'm trying to push Asuma-sensei to train us harder, but I have to complete the exercise for that to happen. Which is to beat Choji and Shikamaru in a spar at the same time? Yes, ma'am. But as I am, I can't do that straight up. So you'll cheat? Yoshino questioned. Technically, no. This isn't against the rules we stipulated. I'm just taking every advantage to make sure my mission is a success. Ino explained and watched the Nara matriarch nod along. Yoshino considered Ino's argument. While not overly concerned with them being the strongest team, she certainly wanted them to be a strong and solid team. Asuma being more rigorous couldn't hurt, and it would break Shikamaru out of this belief he only needed to really concentrate on his intellect. The mother in her balked at drugging her own child, but he wasn't a child anymore. If Ino were getting this serious about her career, Yoshino saw no reason to impede her development. "I'll do it if you give me a full description of what the substance is and how you got it," Yoshino stipulated, and Ino nodded. She'd spent much of the night distilling the substance after her brainstorming session with Hinata-chan and Naruto Clan. She even had notes and documentation to provide in case Yoshino had asked for it. Ino smiled. Yoshino was going to be the harder sell of the two mothers she had to speak to. She was starting to believe she just might pull this off. Guy watched Naruto exit the training ground as Lee shouted his goodbyes. It was a good session. He'd had both boys drop their weights/resistance seals respectively and come at him. It was quite invigorating, and he was enthused to see how Naruto was improving the base taijutsu style Guy had helped him with. However, Guy couldn't shake his sense of guilt. He'd known from his rival that Naruto was developing into a capable taijutsu practitioner, and the current best of Team 7. Guy hatched a plan to get Naruto to train with Lee and to put the young Uzumaki in a position not to hold back. Lee was a humble boy, but his tunnel vision regarding Niji was bringing about an unintentional arrogance, as he solely compared himself to his chosen rival, blinding himself to the other challenges around. It worked. Lee saw that there was someone his age that could compete with his speed and strength. He hated using the blonde in such a way, but hoped the experiencing of fighting in elite jounin was, at least, close to a fair exchange for his time. While Guy was attempting to alleviate his guilt, Naruto was headed back to his apartment. He needed to shower before his meetings and wanted to send a few clones to the archives. He rather liked the unusual pair of beasts, and wondered if Sai wouldn't mind having Lee join them from time to time. He wasn't surprised Lee was so fast, as he had no basis to gauge the boy's abilities, but knowing there was someone comparable to him did give him a little motivation to increase the intensity of his workouts. He really liked that he got an example of many of the basic strikes and stances of the Guken style. He'd improved his memory recall seals, so projecting the fight and incorporating elements of the style wouldn't be too difficult, even if it was more rigid than his nascent style was. Before he cleared Team 9's training grounds, he crossed paths with Niji, who looked especially irritated when he spoke. "What are you doing here, Uzumaki?" Naruto simply looked Niji in his eyes for several moments before giving his answer. "Leaving." He then continued to walk away, wondering how the alleged prodigy couldn't pick up on something so obvious. Niji took the answer as a dismissal, and it only agitated him further. "You would do well to speak properly to your betters," the Hyuga spat. Naruto turned to him, considering his words. He did have a point, as Aji-san had stressed the value of politeness, which is something he then taught to Kono-chan. However, the phrasing of betters left him perplexed, as Naruto hadn't known of some objective ranking system, but he felt he should, at least, acknowledge Niji's attempt at good advice. "If I find some, I will," and continued on his way. The second, to Niji, dismissal only soured his mood further, and the shouts from his sensei and teammate hadn't helped. He swore he'd teach the blonde a lesson one day, if for no other reason than to tear down the source of Hinata's support. Fate demanded as much. Naruto, paying the bitter Hyuga no further attention, swiftly made his way back to his apartment. He had about an hour and a half to shower, change and eat before he'd hear the first bid for his redevelopment project. While, theoretically, Naruto could simply task clones to do the work once they learned how, it would not do good for his company to have no employees or contractors on the books. The blonde Uzumaki was excited about the redevelopment. While much of the apartments wouldn't change, Naruto wouldn't incorporate some amenities to attract more renters. He wanted a small grocery store at the ground level and a laundry service as well. He was going to establish a small private training area behind his building and a secure hot spring. There were some other ideas, but he mostly wanted the ability to expand or add as he chose, so the construction would be additional structures to the existing apartment complex. The novelty being, while all apartments would be entered from the outside, there would be a Fuinjutsu-enabled passage to the resident-only amenities to keep them secure and exclusive. Another addition to the building, that only a few people would know about, was the sub-basements Naruto planned to create with Doton Jutsu and Fuinjutsu. He'd had this idea that, if it worked, would take his training to the next level, but he wanted to keep it a secret. As his Ajisen stated, not every development had to be shared with the village. This would be for him and what Haku called his precious people. The Uzumaki had busied himself with so many projects, Anko seal, learning medicine, battle Fuinjutsu, and other areas of training that he'd stalled on his initial focus, the information systems. His short-range communication seal worked, but he wanted something better, that could handle audio, video, and text. Attempts hadn't been to his liking, as the images would just be blurs. How to transmit the information was the problem, and one of his clones had the thought that the data of the desired transmission needed to be broken down into smaller packets and then reconstituted in almost an instant once received. Given Naruto had spent much more time with his mother's barrier information, creating the theoretical framework hadn't been hard, though coming up with a new coding language was onerous. The last hurdle was the method of transmission, which would require a space/time technique. To realize his goal, Naruto knew he had to finally begin to learn his father's signature jutsu, the Hiraishin. He also had to then surpass even his father's mastery, as the Hiraishin was a Fuinjutsu-assisted ninjutsu and Naruto needed an entirely Fuinjutsu instant transmission method. The Uzumaki hummed as he exited the shower. He had a lot to do. Even with his clones, it often felt like he was nearing his limit with how much he could multitask. He'd finished his preparation for his upcoming mission, but he still needed to make some things for his teammates. Just because he wasn't going to be there didn't mean he couldn't be helpful, and as his replacement, Tenten-san was alleged to be really good at shuriken jutsu, he knew just the items to give her. He completed his hygiene rituals, dried off, and changed. A black v-neck, long-sleeve shirt over a mesh shirt, black pants and sandals to match. Not his usual shinobi wear, but since it was for business, Hatake-sensei and his Ajisen both recommended a change in wardrobe. He sat down at his table, a clone having prepared omuris with miso soup. The Uzumaki ate quietly, enjoying the small moment of inactivity. Kurenai overlooked her team with a small smile on her face. The team had just completed one of their recurrent training exercises, hide and seek. 2 members would search for one party, but the stipulation was, none of the genin could use the abilities their clans were infamous for. Kurenai had to put a special salve under Kiba's nose to achieve this, as the boy couldn't simply turn his sense smell off. They'd struggled initially, as she assumed, but they'd grown over the months in and out of the exercise. Kiba had to learn to be more observant and thoughtful, qualities that were slowly bleeding into other facets of the Inuzuka's life. He'd still charge ahead, that'd likely always be his style, but he was getting smarter about it. Shino was learning to treat the environment and people around him as things to engage and interact with, not merely objects of observation and assessment. He was, in turn, talking more with his teammates about non-shinobi matters, and his teammates were all too happy to talk in return. Hinata, too, initially faltered, but she was learning to rely on more than just her eyes and getting more and more confident. Kurenai couldn't be more proud of her team. While not the combat-focused like Team 7, they had enough power to not fall victim like other tracker-focused teams, while also learning to be multidimensional in their ninja abilities. She was even ready to start them on some genjutsu studies, outside of how to detect and break them, which she drilled into their heads early on. None of them may specialize, but they'd all know how to do something in the illusion arts. Kurenai's focus was disturbed by the presence of a hawk circling the team, meaning they were being summoned to the Hokage Tower. She wasted no time getting the genin's attention and leading them to the tower. If they were being summoned, it was likely a time-sensitive C rank. There was always a hint of concern when she took them out of the village, but she chalked that up to just the natural concern a teacher would have for her students, as she was also confident they could handle themselves. They were solid individually and even better as a team. The mission was a search and rescue, if alive, or confirmation of death if not. It would take them 2 days to reach the mountainous region they were traveling to, so Kurenai gave her team an hour to pack and report to the main gate. Teammates separated as they exited the Hokage Tower, each attending to their own mission prep. Kurenai chose to go with the standard jounin uniform. Taking into consideration the weather conditions of the mountains, she resolved herself to barter with Uzumaki Clan to get some of his temperature control seals. Hinata already had them in her mission wear, and it had been a mental lapse to not procure some as well. She may make it a team buy, as Shino and Kiba could both benefit, but she'd have to consider what would be a fair trade for his services. Maybe some genjutsu lessons and even a jutsu, she wondered as she finished packing. After having a light lunch and rechecking her gear, Kurenai left out, arriving just as the rest of her team did. She smiled briefly as they were neither too early nor late. She spared them some brief words about their expected travel duration, and after officially checking out Team 8 departed. Movement, she realized, was going to be her key to success. Any traps she erected needed to keep her teammates moving, off balance and guessing. Shikamaru likely couldn't use his shadow possession while moving, and his stamina wasn't the best either. He also didn't strategize the best when on the back foot, situations not in his control. Choji was different, he was all motion. The tank that could barrel through opposition when needed, but she'd use that against him, and without Shikamaru guiding him, the boy would lose confidence. Ino realized she'd have to work with Choji on that. He shouldn't use Shikamaru as a crutch, but it'd have to wait. The Yamanaka heiress was planning out her battle. That is why she was currently in her team's training grounds. She wanted to get a real feel for the area, looking at it through new eyes. She wouldn't put up any of the traps until tomorrow night just in case, but it was good to have a working schematic now. After getting Choji's mom to agree, Ino didn't feel as confident as when she left Yoshino. It was starting to feel real now. She had a brief moment of doubt as she wondered if she really could do this on her own, outside of the help she'd be receiving from her surrogate aunts. Ino immediately shook away those dark thoughts. She knew how many saw her, the vapid, fangirl heiress, the girl that would rather gossip than train. While some of those things were true, she was a sincere and vocal admirer of Sasuke. She wasn't some dimwit. She's been the one requesting more training, pushing her limits. She's the one trying to diversify her skill set. She had to win. This single victory wouldn't change people's perceptions of her, but she could start with Asuma-sensei. She could prove she wasn't just playing ninja, she was serious. From there she didn't know, but she had people to help figure it out. The Yamanaka simply knew she'd only accept the best from herself, and push her teammates to do so as well. Two blondes sat in the observation deck of a surgical suite overlooking a team perform. From above it looked so orderly, a choreographed dance that belied the split-second decision-making and potential consequences should one misstep. Sunade wasn't concerned, though. She trained Shizen well and had absolute faith in her long-time apprentice. Her visible discomfort was only due to the remaining vestiges of her phobia. Watching surgeries were to be an immersion therapy, a way to safely confront the symbol of her deeper issues. Sunade hadn't told Naruto she had hemophobia, and he never inquired as to why she wasn't performing surgeries. He was, however, a very observant boy, and while he may not understand a lot, he does know the signs of discomfort and the periodic flinching of Tsunade's shoulders. Recalling some advice he read in a book once, Naruto simply reached out and held her hand. He missed the small smile she donned at his gesture, his focus having returned to the surgery. Being a combat medic is like fighting a war on all fronts. Time is against you, your conditions aren't sterile, and you often have enemies to worry about. Do you have enough supplies? Are you rested enough? Focused enough? Is there enough light to see? What if you have multiple patients? Who gets how much time? The development and refinement of medical ninjutsu has helped. The fewer surgeries we have to actually cut people open, the better, but even medical ninjutsu has stagnated in recent years. Why? Honestly? And this is going to sound arrogant as hell, but it's because I stopped creating them. Medics no more, but treatments and jutsu? Not much. What if I hadn't left and had died? Who would have continued to push the field forward? This is why I'm glad Sensei called me back. He was right, Naruto. With us working together, I think we can make another leap in the medical field and maybe inspire some other people to get off their asses and stop hiding in my shadow. Tsunade said and saw Naruto nod in acknowledgement. Your security measures will go into full effect soon. We don't have many genin on staff, so their background checks will be completed soon, and I've been impressed with your pharmacology studies. Now I want you to move toward actual treatment seals. After you get back from your next mission, I want to start your surgical rotation in earnest, which means you'll need to be here in person until I say otherwise. Your clones can do rounds with our diagnosticians, though you are to no longer have them henge into other people. The transforming of the clones was initially agreed upon to not draw attention to Sunade taking on a new student. It just looked like she was testing out a pilot program. It was also an attempt, on Hiruzen's part as it was his suggestion, to insulate Naruto from biased staff or even patients. Sunade was of the opinion that people either dealt with him being there or they could get the hell out, but ultimately deferred to her sensei's wish. But if he were going to be seeing more and more patients, there had to be a level of trust, so the deception had to end. Okay, was Naruto's response. Henge, no henge, it didn't really matter to him. Good. Now, as I was saying, unsterile environments and live combat zones are one of the more enduring issues. Do you think you could develop some type of medical room barrier? Tsunade asked and watched as Naruto stroked his chin lightly. Barriers, be they ninjutsu or Fuinjutsu, required a good deal of chakra. The more you required the barrier to do, the more chakra it took to maintain it. That was simply just the reality of art. One that could offer protection, cloaking, Naruto's idea, as if the enemy can't see you they are less likely to attack you, as well as some kind of filter to purify the area and keep it that way would be costly. But possible, the Uzumaki thought. Hey, before you go too far down that rabbit hole, I want to stop you. Sunade said and laughed as Naruto developed a small pout. Another idea I want you to consider is some kind of stasis, as operating in the field is not always possible. I've attempted to create a jutsu to accomplish this but haven't been successful. I couldn't localize the effects. Those are the next 2 projects I want you to tackle, and I'll get you whatever resources you need. Any questions? How long do I have? There's no timetable, but the sooner the better, of course. Any more questions? No. Alright, one last thing. Did you treat Emiko Yamanaka last night? And did you restrain Inoichi while doing so? Yes to both. Naruto answered and watched Sunade laugh again. You have a nice laugh, sensei. Naruto said, and she did. It wasn't like Hinata's giggle, but there was a melodious quality to it. Sunade waved off the compliment. She knew he meant it, and there wasn't anything more to it. Well, you did the right thing. Never let anything prevent you from offering the care needed once you accept someone as a patient. Though you didn't win any points with Inoichi, so I'd watch that. I did as he asked, so I don't understand his hostility. Naruto said, tilting his head. He found Ino-chan's dad to be confusing. Tsunade sighed, not wanting to be the one to have this conversation, but clearly, sensei hadn't done so. Naruto, Inoichi doesn't really dislike you for anything you've done. It's because you're a boy who has the attention of his daughter. He thinks you want to have sex with her and that it's his job to protect her virtue. I do want to have sex with her, I told her as much. I don't see how that's his concern. Sunade looked mildly surprised at the boy's bold admission but recovered well. Why that is his concern is a very long, complicated, and frankly sexist discussion, and you should ask sensei if you want to know. What's important here is that Inoichi doesn't dislike Naruto Uzumaki, he dislikes Ino's male friend. She offered, and Naruto tilted his head in the other direction. In another situation, Sunade might find it adorable. So, any boy who may show such interest in Ino-chan may receive a similar reaction? Yes, and you admitting you want to have sex with her didn't help matters. I didn't know you shouldn't do that, not until Hinata-chan told me. I don't do it anymore. Well, that's progress, I guess. But you shouldn't be friends with girls just in hopes of having sex with them. Sunade admonished, realizing being a sensei to a boy was going to be hard. I'm not, the two are unrelated. I didn't know Ino-chan and I were friends until after I offered to have sex with her. I'll still be her friend even if she doesn't. Same with Hinata-chan. I wouldn't stop learning from you and Shizen-senpai just because either of you wanted to have sex with me. That'd be weird. Naruto replied as if he were stating the obvious. Sunade amended her last thought. It wasn't going to be hard, but incredibly hard. I don't know what to say in response to that, so you can leave. Take Tenten with you, she needs some exercise, Sunade said, really needing a drink right now. She also decided she needed to limit Naruto's exposure to Jiraiya, as the world didn't need another gallant pervert. Jiraiya was settling in for the night. He just met with an important contact, but one that didn't have a lot of usable information. That was maddening, but it was the question this contact had. Questions concerning Naruto that put the Toad Sage on edge and wondering if he should cut his losses. He'd need to speak to Sensei about it once he returned. He also needed to talk to his godson. He drug his feet on Anko's curse seal, and he knew Naruto was losing patience with his lack of help. He should just explain his reasons and hope the boy would listen. The kid seemed rational, but the thing about adolescence is that their irrationality flares up at the worst times, even among prodigies. But to delay any further was risking his relationship, and he couldn't allow that. Not at all. The large man sighed as he kicked off his geta and got into bed. He was mildly surprised to see a messenger toad appear with a missive from Naruto. The Gaki hadn't contacted him in such a way before, but he was glad Naruto was getting familiar with all the toads. He unfurled the scroll and read the contents quickly before unsealing some documents contained in a storage seal at the bottom. He looked at the messenger toad. Then back to the scroll. Then the toad again before exclaiming, "What the fuck is this?" Jiraiya's surprise was understandable given the message contained therein. He couldn't believe what his godson had done. He was going to wring that brat's neck and yell at Sensei for allowing him to grow up like that. Jiraiya read the scroll one last time to make sure he wasn't losing his mind. Jiraiya, my calls for assistance have gone unheeded, and I have yet to be given a reason as to why. In an effort to obtain your acquiescence, I have bought your publishing house. Within the storage seal at the bottom are the copies of the sales agreement and other official documents. Until you render the aid I need to help Mitarashi Anko-chan or explain, fully, why you have not no new copies of existing Ika books will be printed and all future editions will be shelved. If you try to break your contract, which I now own, I will sue in the courts of Fire Country. I await your response. Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 11. Four jounin sat in a dimly lit bar. One looks exhausted, one bored, one anticipatory, and the last looked quite youthful. The quad of notable jounin sensei were all waiting for the guest of honor to arrive, but as said guest was delayed, they'd started the party early. All noticed how tired Asuma looked. Well, tired and frazzled, as if he'd been having a difficult last few days. Guy was the first to remark. Your youthful flames need replenishing, Asuma. Asuma grimaced at Guy's booming voice but couldn't deny the observation. He wasn't feeling the least bit youthful. I'll be fine, although if any of you is interested in trading kunoichi I'll gladly consider it. Kurenai frowned at Asuma's statement, having learned a little about Ino from Hinata. She was under the impression the Yamanaka heiress had been taking her training and vocation more seriously. She didn't get a chance to voice it, as Kakashi beat her to it. What has Ino done? Naruto talks about her often, and she doesn't seem all that bad. 5 days ago I would have agreed with you. She was just an eager genin wanting to learn new things and train to be better than the girls of her generation. What happened to change that? Well, the Sarutobi was surprised to see Ino there so early. She looked calm, ready but entirely too calm. He labeled it youthful overconfidence and didn't think too much more about it. The pair stood in silence after a brief greeting. Minutes passed and the boys were bordering on late. Asuma bit onto an unlit cigarette as he watched the final 2 members of his team arrive. He could tell something was off. Choji had a thin layer of sweat forming on his face and Shikamaru looked not just lazy but actually tired. He knew they weren't the hardest workers but they were both pretty fit for genin, so that confused him. Ino, however, remained composed as she stood across from them. Alright, this is a friendly spar, so no death blows and no maiming. Anything else is fair game. Any questions? His students all shake their head in the negative, so he gives permission. Then you can begin. We quit. Shikamaru said, stopping Ino in her tracks. What do you mean you quit? You haven't done anything yet. Asuma barked, truly disappointed in his shinobi. I don't know how, but Ino poisoned us. Aion can barely think and Choji is already breathing heavy. This is too troublesome. Chika finished before he flopped on the ground with zero grace, Choji following right behind him. Asuma absorbed Shikamaru's words but couldn't fully comprehend them. He knew what each word meant separately but together. Ino didn't really poison her teammates to win a bet, did she? He turned to his lone kunoichi and saw her donning a large smile. I did it, Asuma-sensei. I even understood the secret lesson. Secret lesson? He asked while quirking an eyebrow. Yeah. You wanted me to treat this as an assassination mission. That's why I had Shika's and Choji's moms poison them both and got blackmail material on Choji. Choji grimaced at that but didn't have the energy to protest it. He'd live in fear later. He needed a nap. What? He yelled internally but said, Good job, Ino. She nodded. Asuma was in the process of reevaluating the Yamanaka. She wasn't afraid of hard work, but her reasons were oft immature. He assumed her desire to learn his signature weapon was for similar reasons. And while he didn't mean for her to derive a deeper meaning from this that she had was impressive, that she would poison her teammates was concerning. That this change seemingly happened overnight was even more so. Asuma would spend the next hour talking to Ino as she undid all of her unused traps, from pitfalls meant to sprain ankles to tripwires that triggered all manner of projectiles. She even had explosives and flashbangs prepped. Once finished, he walked her through some beginner moves with his knuckle knives. They were a poor fit in her smaller hands, but he resolved to have her measured for her own pair. A deal was a deal. She really had her teammates poisoned the night before a spar? Kurenai asked in mild disbelief. Yep. To win a bet? She pressed. To complete a mission, Asuma corrected. She really looked underneath the underneath on that one. Wonder who could have put that in her head. Asuma mused while giving a pointed look at Kakashi. I've never spoken to Ino a day in my life, Asuma. Oh, not you. That blonde brat of yours. Ma. Naruto-kun is far from a brat, Kakashi said with an eye smile. You'll see, Asuma, he is the chosen one. The chosen one for what? Kurenai asked, but Kakashi simply waved her off. Before she could speak again, Guy chimed in. Ino's flames of youth burn brightly. Guy, take it down a notch or 12, Kakashi requested. Sorry, yeah, whatever. Because of him, I now have to watch everything I say, worried Ino will get some hidden meaning I'm not actually communicating. It's all so troublesome. You sound like your Nara, Kurenai pointed out. What can I say, the kid has a point. You haven't long since gotten back, Kurenai. How was your mission? Dreadful. Sounds like there is a story there, Kakashi said and watched the Genjutsu mistress frown. 3 siblings tried to kill the others for their inheritance and fail, getting stranded in the process. We escort them back home where a 4th sibling, our actual client, accidentally kills the 3 murderous siblings with a crossbow. In his distress, the final sibling takes his life and the town rejoices as that money now goes to the public coffers. Shino actually laughed at the absurdity of it, and that was the most unsettling thing of all. Damn, Asuma said but wouldn't get to expound as the lady of the hour had finally arrived. Anko Mitarashi walked into the bar, not in her usual attire. Instead, she wore a spaghetti-strapped black cocktail dress that stopped just above her knees with matching heels. Her hair was actually down, and the torture expert was flashing a wide grin. You guys start without me? She questioned as she took a seat. Not really, though it is very Kakashi-like to invite us out and arrive late, Asuma observed. Sorry, I got held up, but I'm here now, so let's celebrate, she exclaimed and watched Kakashi flash through several hand signs and flaring his chakra, causing a simple privacy barrier to emerge. Now we can celebrate without any unkind ears listening in any? The copy ninja said. YOSH. We must allow our youthful flames to burn brightly for Anko's newfound freedom from that dastardly snake, Guy bellowed, causing everyone to wince. So loud, but he's right. Here's to Anko, finally being free of that cursed seal, Kurenai added. All raised their drinks for their friend. So Anko, how did you manage such a youthful accomplishment? Did Jiraiya-sama have a breakthrough? I think you know it wasn't Jiraiya-sama that removed this from me, Guy. It was Kakashi's brat, Anko said and saw Kurenai and Guy smile, one in fondness and the other in acknowledgement. Kakashi had no outward change, but she knew how proud he was. She was surprised to see Asuma initially frown before covering it. Are you finally going to share how it happened? Kurenai asked. She'd known Anko had been free of the seal, but the special jounin hadn't relayed any details, wanting to save it until her outing. Sure, but keep in mind I understand the Fuinjutsu about as well as Kakashi understands proper decorum. Anko-chan. I understand it perfectly well, I simply don't care. Sure, so it happened like this. Anko entered the Hokage's office, having been summoned, with no idea as to why. She didn't like having her interrogations interrupted but withheld any complaints as when the old man called you answered, no questions asked. She was not expecting to see 2 of the 3 Sannin and 2/3 of the Elders' Council present along with the Fuinjutsu chibi. The atmosphere was tense, though none of the ninja present allowed it to be shown on their faces. Anko bowed. Hokage-sama, she offered neutrally. Thank you for your prompt arrival, Anko-chan. I requested you here to inform you we are now able and ready to remove your seal, Hiruzen said with a kind smile. Anko allowed herself a small smile, but no other show of the elation she was feeling. When can it be removed, Hokage-sama? Now, a decidedly younger voice said. Now? She asked in surprise, but the blonde never took his eyes off the Hokage, so she looked back at the village leader and saw him nod. Well, now seems to work. Is there anything she needs, Naruto-kun? To go home and shower. Removing the natural oils of the skin helps the ink adhere to the skin. Also, a list of preferred foods and drink. Once you're ready, just report to the same facility I initially reviewed your seal. And you're confident you can do this, Gaki? I will not fail, Naruto said, his eyes never leaving her own. She nodded and departed, thankful for the run home to help remove some of the giddiness she was experiencing. Anko took her shower, being thorough just to make sure nothing would go wrong. 30 minutes later she was entering the Anbu facility and saw the chibi outside the sealing chamber, informing her it was a clone and taking her food and drink order before disappearing into the tunnels. Once she entered the sealing chamber she saw various symbols drawn on the walls and one table awaiting her, along with the chibi and Sunade-sama. Hey, what's Sunade-sama doing here and where is Jiraiya-sama? While we are confident we know how the seal will react, we don't know how your body will. I am here to ensure any complications that arise can be seen to immediately. As for Jiraiya, he is not needed. I have walked him and 2 other adept seal users through my designs and each have cleared its use. Would you like me to walk you through the process, Anko-chan? Yeah, sure. The main array will consist of 3 layers. The first is to remove the independent consciousness, sending it to a pocket dimension that will implode with said consciousness. The second will siphon off that energy contained within the seal into an independent storage seal. Lastly, all other functions will be dismantled and the seal will be unraveled. Anko listened intently to Naruto's words, nodding along, but something occurred to her. You said the main array, is there more? Yes. I will graft a partial, supplementary chakra circulatory system onto yours. It will be how the seals for the errant consciousness and the unstable energy will be removed. I also have developed seals that will keep your body still and relaxed. The calmer your chakra flow is, the easier this will be, and stillness will aid in that. Finally, Sunade-sensei will use medical ninjutsu to anesthetize you, but if you should need to awaken immediately, I have a seal for that. Okay, that's a lot. But how did you manage it? We were alerted to a substance that can produce a special kind of chakra ink. It will make it possible to trigger the seal in a controlled way and ultimately remove it. Sunade answered. Anko nodded at the small blonde again. What do I need to do? You have to remove your clothes so I can paint the seal. Naruto instructed and then stepped out of the room. Why did he bother to leave? He's going to see it all anyway. Anko asked and watched the slug Sannin shrug. It's pretty standard at the hospital to give your patients some privacy. Being naked and getting undressed in front of someone can feel decidedly different. Oh, when he called you sensei? Yep, he's my student for the time being. Kid is going to give me a complex. I really need to up my training, Anko said, removing the last of her clothing. She was considered talented. It's what drew Orochimaru to her, but clearly, the blonde was operating on another level. Anko heard Sunade knock on the door, a signal. Anko was undressed and the Uzumaki returned. He wasted no time drawing the seals on her, utilizing a team of clones. The ink felt cool against her skin. After about an hour, she was lying on her back, drifting off thanks to Sunade's medical ninjutsu. Her last image being of unbelievably blue eyes looking into her own, not an ounce of apprehension or doubt to be seen. When Anko awoke, it was 5 hours later and her senses returned in sequence. First, she felt, and not how she expected to. She felt warm, intoxicatingly warm, and heavy, but that too was pleasurable. She thought she could just curl up and sleep forever, but her sense of smell came back and the aroma of dango called to her. Not even the promise of endless sleep could match the seductress known as dango. Next came sound as she could hear someone gently shifting around her. Finally, she opened her eyes, the bright light making her squint. Welcome back, Anko, Sunade said. Did it work? Anko asked. She was alive, so the seals couldn't have completely failed, but that didn't mean she was free and her chakra felt too chaotic to check herself. Yes. Naruto removed the cursed seal. Anko willed the tears away from her eyes. She was internally joyous, but she refused to cry even in happiness. She'd wasted too many tears over her sensei and promised she'd never do it again, not even at the severance of their final bond. She hastily moved on from thinking about him. She no longer had to think about him at all. She was untethered. Unencumbered. Free. Her life was truly hers once again. Anko listened to Sunade as she gave her a medical rundown. Apparently, it'd take a few days for her chakra system to settle, but once it did, she'd have her fully chakra capacity back, and outside of maybe needed to train her control again, there weren't any significant issues Anko would have to contend with. When Sunade asked if Anko had any questions, she only had to. Where's the Gaki? I sent him home. Removing the natural energy from your system required your chakra and it be in near balance, but your reserves weren't large enough for that, so Naruto had to transfer some chakra to you. Transferring raw chakra to someone safely is incredibly taxing, even when he had a seal prepared to aid in the transfer. Once the cursed seal was removed, he was wiped and needed rest. I can't believe he did all of this for me, Anko said. Sunade laughed, momentarily confusing Anko. I know it may not be obvious, but if you really get to know him, you'll find he's a very caring young man. He simply doesn't express it as most others would. He reminds me a lot of my great uncle. No offense, Sunade-sama, but I was always told Naidame-sama was emotionless. Oh, he could appear to be. But he also used to sneak me sweets behind Mitoba-sama's back when I was little. People like that, they show they care by what they do. Why would he care about me? We'd only met once before Jiraiya-sama had him check my seal, and it was more confusing than anything. You'll have to ask him yourself. Now, is there anything else? Yeah, why do I feel so warm and kinda weighed down? The effects of a jutsu? Sunade snorted. Yeah, Fuinjutsu. It's the blanket, it has weight and warming seals on it. He said you could keep it if you like it. I really do. Count yourself lucky, I'm still waiting on mine and I'm his flipping sensei. Sunade said in annoyance. I did let him see my tits, Sunade-sama. Sunade gained a tick mark, wondering if the little pervert had bumped Anko to the front of the line for that very reason. And, I've just been taking it easy for the last few days. But it's gone, it's really gone. That sick fuck was bested by a 12-year-old, and it makes me smile every time I think about it. Anko concluded, causing Guy to shed manly tears of youth. Kakashi sat there, listening intently, and realized Anko didn't know the whole story. If she had, I wonder how she'd feel about Naruto blackmailing a Sannin for her. Jiraiya, he recalled, was not amused at all by his godson's ploy nor the immediate response when confronted. Where's Kushina's brat? Jiraiya barked at Kakashi, confusing the copy ninja. Jiraiya looked genuinely angry, and that he referred to Naruto as Kushina's and not Minato's was a sign his favorite student did something. I don't feel I can, in good conscience, lead you to my precious student when you're like this. Kakashi replied lazily and saw Jiraiya's facial features tighten. The brat is threatening Ika, Kakashi, this is serious. And Jiraiya was right, this was serious. How could Kushina's son do that? How had he done it? Kakashi didn't care, he just needed to find Naruto and set things right, maybe levy some punishment for this grievous act. Kuchios no jutsu, Kakashi said, slapping his hand to the ground. Without ceremony, his entire Nikken pack was there, awaiting orders, not threatening his Ika. Find Naruto, and once you do, one of you alert me. Kakashi ordered and watched his summons depart. We'll set this straight, Jiraiya-sama, don't worry. I'm not worried. I'm going to wring his little neck. Jiraiya replied and continued to mutter several more threats. 5 minutes later, Bull returned, ready to lead Kakashi to the betrayer's location. They moved rapidly toward Naruto, arriving after a short commute, and watched as Kakashi's summons turned on him. The no-good mutts were lying on their backs, getting belly rubs from shadow clones as, he assumed, the original Naruto was speaking to Sai. Kakashi ignored the traitors as he dashed toward Naruto and lifted him up by the back of his jacket, the short blonde now dangling in Kakashi's grip as he faced his sense. Hatake-sensei, he greeted. Don't Hatake-sensei me, Naruto. Why have you threatened the Ika? Tell the truth and your punishment will be light. Naruto squinted and tilted his head until he saw Jiraiya approaching and realized Jiraiya snitched. I required Jiraiya to act in a manner he would prefer not to, so I obtained leverage to coerce him. What kind of leverage? Kakashi asked, just starting to realize he hadn't known how Naruto was threatening the Ika. I bought the publishing house that distributes the book series. I will not allow any future releases or reprintings of existing editions until I get what I need. Now, that threw Kakashi for a loop. It was damn impressive, and in almost any other situation he'd buy the kid a present for being a damn fine shinobi, but his most prized pawn was on the line. Kakashi was torn. His pride as a sensei and his perversion were at war, and he didn't know what to do. He needed more information. Naruto, what do you need from Jiraiya so desperately that you would go that far? Those who disobey the rules are trash, this is true, but those who abandon their comrades are less than trash. Jiraiya was making me less than trash, Hatake-sensei. This threw Kakashi for a further loop, an additional loop? Loops abound, as Naruto wouldn't joke about those words or use them mindlessly. Kakashi wasn't sure Naruto could use any words mindlessly, but certainly not those. Kakashi dropped Naruto, allowing the Uzumaki to walk past him. Have you come to be of assistance, Jiraiya of the Sannin? Naruto asked, and all present could hear the slight recrimination in his voice. I don't give in to blackmail, Naruto, not even for a worthy cause. You should have just been patient and trusted me. I don't, Naruto replied. Excuse me? I don't trust you, how could you, and you don't trust me? Naruto finished and watched an unknown expression form on Jiraiya's face. Is that what you think? I don't trust you. Yes. Jiraiya appeared torn, starting to speak but stopping before any words formed. The Toad Sage sighed, realizing he might have alienated his godson with his inaction. The toads have a special oil that conducts natural energy. I know a process to make it into ink. And you've known the entire time? Naruto asked. Yes. Before Jiraiya had gotten the one-syllable word out completely, Naruto had already summoned his staff and was attempting to brain Jiraiya. Kakashi was too fast and grabbed the other end, lifting Naruto off the ground and robbing him of a majority of his power. Please release my staff, Hatake-sensei. No can do, Naruto-kun. You should hear Jiraiya out and not just attack him. That's very much unlike you. I need not hear his justification, I already know. He prefers I not alter my seal and realize this toad oil would be a means in which I could. To prevent me from achieving one goal, he forced Anko-chan to languish as I failed at another. Is this correct, Jiraiya of the Sannin? Yeah, kid, that's it. Minato gave dash. I do not care. Jiraiya flinched as if struck by those words. Seals either work, or they do not work. Sentiment does not alter that reality, nor does it give you the right to tell me what I can do to my body. If what you do threatens the entire village, yes I do. You could weaken the seal, Naruto. And I would die. I am uninterested in death, therefore I have great motivation to make sure any additions or changes I made were thoroughly researched. If this were about the danger, you would have looked over my preliminary array, but you did not. Minato sacrificed dash I. Do. Not. Care. Well, I do, brat. He was like a son to me, and I won't let you go mucking around in his final work because you think you can do better. The seal works as designed, and as long as I have your key I won't loosen it so you can make changes. I have already made another key. I do not need your permission. You do to get the toad oil. I'll make sure they won't supply you, and I'll only give you enough for Anko's procedure. You could have always done that. Me merely knowing of its existence doesn't mean I know how to procure it. I find your irrational behavior vexing and wish to no longer be in your company, Naruto said, resealing his staff and landing on the ground and turning to Kakashi. Hatake-sensei, I understand those books mean a lot to you and my threat to shelve them were only an opening gambit. I had other methods to gain compliance, but they will not be necessary. As it is within my rights, I name you the editor of all Ika manuscripts until further notice. I request, in return, 2 Doton Jutsu of B rank. Sai, I will see you soon, but I find myself in need of solitude. Good day. Naruto didn't wait for any response, simply departing in a shunshin. That was a real dickless move, Sai said to Jiraiya, and the Toad Sage sighed and departed, his shoulders slumped as he did. Hey Kakashi, you still with us? Anko asked. Ma, did you say something? He asked in response. So hip, Guy said, and Anko merely snickered at the Cyclops. Anko, you never told us why you were late, Kurenai reminded her. Oh, I wanted to thank the Gaki as I hadn't seen him since he removed it. It seemed he was in the middle of a sleepover of sorts. I know I saw at least 3 girls in his apartment. Unseen by all was the last Hatake doing a small fist pump. He knew he had chosen wisely. Minato-sensei's son couldn't fail. The gentleman pervert was well on his way. Haku sleeps with me sometimes because she gets cold, Naruto said to his guests. Anko had spotted 3, but there were actually 4 girls in Naruto's apartment. Hinata, Ino, Haku, and Tenten. The first 3 were there to cheer up their friend as Haku informed the others about Naruto's argument with Jiraiya. Tenten was there, initially, because she was impressed with the seals Naruto provided his team, which aided in their mission. The budding weapons mistress was unabashed in her desire to get some of that sweet Fuinjutsu. Since he had them present, Naruto asked their opinion on the mattresses and bedding he planned to provide for every bedroom in his furnished apartments. They all liked the mattress, a nice firm mattress that still had decent give and support. It was when Hinata asked about Naruto's inspiration for the heated and weighted blanket that he let it slip that Haku, sometimes, would share his bed. The Uzumaki assumed her bloodline simply made her run cold, and Haku allowed him to think as much without ever truly confirming it. She just liked her narrow snuggles. Hinata noticed the slight changes in Haku's otherwise angelic facial expression and concluded the Yuki was full of it. Not one to come in second or be denied, she hastily called for a sleepover, rushing out with Ino to get some new sleepwear, as well as inform her clan she would be visiting a friend for the night. She was lucky her father was out himself, so she didn't have to answer too many questions, as was the same for Ino. The 2 heiresses were walking back to Naruto's apartment when Hinata had a minor realization. This could be considered an impromptu celebration of your win, Ino-chan. Yeah, I guess so. I haven't done something like this since Sakura and I ended our friendship, Ino said with a hint of regret. There is time for you 2 to make up, Hinata reassured her. Besides, you need to show me the ropes. I've never done this before. The Yamanaka hated how not surprised she was by that. She had responsibilities and expectations as an heiress, but not to the degree as Hinata, only worsened by her early shyness. She resolved to introduce her newest friend to a bit of youthful normality, as spending the night at a friend's house was a rite of passage. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, I'll walk you through it. It's mostly just staying up too late, eating junk food and gossiping. I doubt I have much to gossip about, the Hyuga lamented. And we will certainly have to fix that, but what I want to know is who was that hot chick all up on your man and why was she so thankful to him? Hinata had a faint blush. Naruto-kun isn't my man. Yet. We're just best friends. Oh, so you inviting yourself to stay over isn't an attempt to sleep in his bed like Haku has? Hinata adopted a stern visage and replied, It is below a Hyuga's pride to do such a thing. And then broke out in snickers when she saw Ino become momentarily horrified. Never use the Hyuga mask on me, that's scary. Sorry Ino-chan, but I had to get you back for teasing me about Naruto-kun. The two kunoichi continued to chat as they reached their destination and were greeted by Haku, in a soft pink kimono. The Yuki also had 3 whisker marks drawn on each cheek and some bunny ears atop her head. Welcome back, Haku greeted as she ushered them in. As they entered they saw Tenten, having the same whisker marks and panda ears, talking to Naruto, wearing fennec fox ears, about something, though she sounded more pleading as she rocked the bowl of popcorn on her lap. Naruto was engaging, perfectly calm as he too had a bowl of goodies resting on his lap. Come on, Chibi, tell me where you got those restriction bead thingies. I made them, Tenten-san, but they are still prototypes. I haven't submitted them to the village quartermaster yet. How good are you at Fuinjutsu? I do self-study, but it's slow going. When did you start? I started when I was 8 after Irika-sensei introduced the topic at the academy. And how good are? Tenten pressed. The blonde's teammate said he made those beads, though from Kakashi-sensei's reaction, the pinkette wasn't supposed to say it. Good for my age, Tenten-san. Naruto answered and heard a series of snickers behind him. He turned to see his first 2 friends had returned. Hinata-chan, Ino-chan, you're back. You have to try this concoction. What did you call it, Tenten-san? Puppy chow, and just Tenten is fine, Naruto. Oh, okay, Tenten. But this is incredibly delicious, and Tenten didn't even measure anything, she just used her imprecise eyes, and yet the outcome was stellar. How are you so excited by this and not the tagless Fuinjutsu you use? Tenten asked in exasperation, amusing the other girls in attendance. Those were pretty easy to make, honestly, and I've never had this puppy chow before. My Aji-san always recommended fruit when I wanted something sweet. What do you mean, easy? I looked at the seals, those were not standard and they were not painted on. Chakra etching is advanced, most sealing adepts never learn it. Tenten said, voice becoming elevated at how obtuse the boy was being. Oh, they should, Naruto said in response, not realizing he was driving his guest mad. Tenten, you should understand that sealing simply comes easily to Naruto-kun, so he doesn't understand how truly impressive some of the things he can do are. Hinata added, trying to placate the girl. Besides, achieving the proper ratio using your eyes is much harder. Tell me, Tenten, how do you know how much peanut butter to chocolate to use? I don't know, Naruto. Practice? The Team 9 kunoichi spoke to the boy, who seemed more enthralled with a simple party snack than any normal person should be. What's with the whiskers and animal ears? Ino asked, seeing a lull in the conversation. Haku chose to respond. Tenten said that these types of things often have themes, and given Naruto-kun is hosting, I just thought it would be fun to mimic his adorable whisker marks. There are 2 more in the bedroom for when you get changed. And taking the hint, Hinata and Ino exited to the bedroom. The 2 returned, each wearing camisoles, Hinata's lavender, and Ino's lilac, and black pajama pants. Hinata had a pair of cat ears atop her head while Ino had dog ears. Haku thought it'd be insulting to get pig ears. When they returned, Haku spoke. Now that everyone is here and appropriately dressed. Tenten grumbled at that as she was in a baggy shirt and shorts, the other girls making her feel a tad self-conscious about her appearance. What do we do? Well, Ino started. Usually it would just be a lot of gossip about cute boys, though in the academy it was just Sasuke-kun. Just Sasuke? Asked Tenten in disbelief and saw Ino nod. Honestly, it sounds creepy in retrospect, but I think him being a blank slate let us attribute whatever narrative we wanted. An ideal crush. A lot of girls were like that with Niji. He was last year's prodigy graduate that all the girls fawned over. Even I had a bit of a crush on him. Had? What changed? Asked Haku. I'm around him all the time. He's talented and will be an amazing ninja one day, but he treats too many people around him like they are less than, including our teammate Lee. Cute looks and talent don't wash away being a jerk. If he ever resolves his crap, who knows, but for now the spell is broken. What about your other teammate Lee? Inquired Ino. Tenten chuckled. Lee tries harder than anyone you will ever meet. He gives his all at everything, including being a supportive teammate, and is a great friend. I just wish Guy-sensei would encourage Lee to be his own person and not a carbon copy of himself. Tenten finished with a huff. What about you, Hinata? How's your team? Good. Shino-kun is really smart and level-headed. Kiba can be brash but keeps our spirits up. They both work well in teams, so we mesh really well together. Do you just see them as teammates, or is there some potential there? Tenten asked. Before she could answer, Hinata noticed a certain blue-eyed Uzumaki was now giving her his full attention. She shook her head while replying, No. We'll be good friends, but I don't see either of them like that. She suppressed a giggle when Naruto returned to munching on the puppy chow. You're both lucky. My teammates are so unmotivated. I get it with Shikamaru. He understands everything so fast that it's nothing to move through life without much effort, but one day he's going to come up against something he can't understand or outthink. Choji is so passive, and he lets Shika do his thinking for him. Worst of all, I got labeled a fangirl, so they dismiss me when I say we need to train more. So now, I have to just kick their butts until they listen to me. What about you, Naruto-kun? He asked, wordlessly as his mouth was full. Tell us about your team. What do you think of them, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Naruto quickly swallowed and then began to stroke his chin in thought. We are not close as a team. The dynamic between Hatake-sensei and I is good, and I enjoy his teachings and presence. Sasuke-san often seems bothered by me, but as he won't vocalize the issue nor how he feels, I cannot say what the exact problem is. Sakura-san can sometimes be quite amiable, but other times seems upset with me, given she shouts at me, but I am unable to deduce a pattern and therefore a reason why. She also seems reluctant to defy Sasuke-san, which makes her distant during missions. We work well enough together, but we often require Hatake-sensei to unilaterally resolve disputes. There is no real synthesis between us, and I often feel cold on the inside when in their presence for prolonged periods. I think I am the issue, but I do not know how I am the issue, so I can't help resolve it. I wish, like each of you, I could find friends in my teammates, but outside of Hatake-sensei, I doubt I will. All the girls frowned at Naruto's words, Hinata more than the rest. She admonished herself for not asking sooner, sometimes forgetting that simply because he does not complain doesn't mean nothing is bothering him. His team's dynamic is clearly off, the team lacking the bullheaded loud mouth she has in Kiba and Ino provides for her team. Instead, it seems each person just works around the others and does it long enough to complete missions. Not ideal, as when placing your life in the hands of others, this type of teamwork only has the appearance of professionalism, but it was an illusion. Once you make Chunin, you can change teams, Naruto-kun. Hinata said in response, and saw a spark of something in his eyes. Do you think I could work with Sai? It's a possibility. Hinata answered. I would hate to leave Hatake-sensei. He has a lot left to teach me, but I think it would be enjoyable to work with an actual friend. We still haven't really hung out with Sai, Naruto-kun. Ino said. Oh, well, Haku has, but I'll try to arrange something. Maybe a training day and a picnic? That's what we normally do. I'd be up for it. Ino answered. I would like that as well. Hinata agreed. Tenten, I know we may not be friends yet, but you would be welcome to join us. Sure, some new training partners are always welcomed. And you can bring more puppy chow? Sure, Naruto, she said, rolling her eyes. And maybe you could add some peanuts? He pressed, ignoring the snickering of the other girls as none were used to seeing him like this. Yeah, I mean in theory you can add anything you want, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as he responded. You can? Yes. Tenten responded, laughing as it was simply too cute. The quintet continued to chat throughout the night, Naruto dismissing himself at one point to get the bedroom arranged. He returned 20 minutes later to inform his guests the sleeping area was set, and all followed him back. None of the girls were expecting to see the sleeping bags they brought arranged as one sleeping apparatus, and they certainly didn't expect to see them levitating at equal height with Naruto's bed. This momentarily broke Tenten. Okay, you know what? No. Just cut the shit, Naruto. How? And why are none of you freaking out because this is borderline magic to me and I know seals? She asked as she frantically gestured to the floating, makeshift bed. It's Naruto-kun, Ino summarized with a shrug. She didn't get it, and trying to would give her wrinkles, so why bother? She just chalked it up to Naruto-kun's stuff and locked it in a box. Okay. I'm tired and you're doing things to my brain, but can you tell me how the sleeping bags are floating? Magnetic levitation, Naruto answered. Magnetic levitation? Tenten asked, unsure of the answer, and watched the Uzumaki nod. She wanted to press on but suspected that would only delay sleep, and she needed sleep as this apparent seal prodigy was going to drive her batty. Focused on Tenten's episode, Naruto hadn't realized there were 2 additional people in his bed. Haku being there didn't surprise him, but Hinata did. Hatake-sensei said a gentleman never assumes, so Naruto found it proper to ask. Do you want me to sleep elsewhere, Hinata-chan? Of course not, the bed is big enough for all 3 of us, if Haku-chan doesn't mind sharing. Oh, I don't mind, Hinata-chan. Do you? It can be quite the adjustment, having to share what was once exclusively yours. No, I don't mind. Unless the person I'm sharing with is not doing so in good faith, then I use whatever means necessary to make sure sharing is never an issue again. Naruto didn't know why, but he felt their words had a deeper meaning than he was picking up, and their smiles were not regular smiles, but he shrugged it off as he wanted to get some sleep. After getting adjusted, the Uzumaki found himself sandwiched between Hinata-chan and Haku. Hinata-chan's back was pressed up against him, and the girl would occasionally readjust, rubbing up against him in a way he didn't mind at all. Haku was behind him and periodically running her hands through his hair, which is something he enjoyed as well. He was a very content Seal Master at the moment. After everyone was settled, it was Ino that realized something obvious. Man, the lights are still on and I'm all comfy. Naruto, having no desire to move and having been forced out of bed to turn off the lights before, already had a solution. He clapped twice and the room went dark. What the shit? Tenten bellowed, her sanity fracturing. Whatever, good night. Good night, Ino repeated. Night all, said the Yuki. Pleasant dreams, Hinata offered. Good night, Databeo. Chapter 12. Naruto disliked alarm clocks. The noise, the bright, ugly display. He found waking up to one jarring, but realized modern life did not allow one to simply awaken naturally. People had schedules to keep and things that needed to get done. He, as he often would, turned to Fuinjutsu to solve this dilemma. Naruto created a seal that would mimic the natural process of leaving sleep. The seal is set to a timer, and initiates the process an hour before Naruto is to awaken. It was with the help of Sunade-sensei and Shizen-senpai Naruto completed it, as the seal regulated brain chemistry and body temperature. And while they cleared the use for him, the 2 senior medics still wanted to run tests before they applied it to individuals without rapid healing abilities. The Uzumaki agreed, seeing the logic of their caution. While Naruto greatly preferred this method of waking up to the old way, one downside is the seal doesn't naturally adapt to sleepovers. So, at 4 o'clock, Naruto was awake and alert, while his guests were still slumbering peacefully. If Haku slept over, it generally wasn't a problem as she held him in a loose grip. However, Hinata-chan must have turned around at some point as the Hyuga heiress clung to him rather tightly. Naruto reasoned she must have gotten cold last night. He didn't mind her holding him so intently, but it did make extracting himself rather difficult. As even she would admit, Hinata didn't do early mornings. Sleeping in and cinnamon rolls were 2 of the indulgences she'd allow herself. He didn't want to anger his friend or start her day off bad. A part of him wondered if he should simply stay. Haku had a soothing chill to her, like a sip of iced tea on a hot day. And Hinata-chan was soft. And they both smelled really good. Naruto frowned slightly. He was not used to indecision of this nature. The right thing was clear. His Aji-san would say discipline is a discipline and good habits are forged over a lifetime but broken in a day. Getting up to begin his work was the correct path. But cool sips of iced tea as he laid on a soft blanket in a meadow of wildflowers tried to convince him otherwise. Naruto took a deep breath. He knew what he needed to do, but he would ask his Aji-san why he wavered, even if only briefly. Now, committed, Naruto moved on to figuring out how to get out of bed without waking up Hinata-chan. There wasn't anything around that could be used as a good replacement. Maybe if he could create a shadow clone and have it replace him. Naruto quickly dismissed that. He'd never done the jutsu seamlessly, though he resolved to change that. He'd also never tried with another person and didn't know the effects of it. The Uzumaki was stuck, physically and mentally, but he didn't panic. Naruto broke his problem down into smaller sections. He needed Hinata-chan to release him without her waking up. He needed to exit the bed while accomplishing the same. Hinata-chan's embrace, then, was the first issue. Naruto thought for a moment before covering his left hand in medical chakra. The blonde reasoned that relaxing Hinata-chan's muscles would cause her grip to loosen and he could get loose. Slowly and gently Naruto ran his fingertips up and down Hinata-chan's back, adding a slight circular motion to the strokes as well. The Hyuga's grip did start to relax, as Naruto had predicted, but he was not prepared for the gentle moans that escaped her lips. He once again, briefly, wondered if he should simply stay before rejecting the idea. Quickly, one of Hinata-chan's arms moved to her side. Naruto swiftly ended his technique and then smoothly lifted himself up and over his best friend, whipping his leg over her just in time for her to roll over to Haku. He stood still for a moment, and when he saw she was still asleep he exited the bedroom. Making a clone to attend to breakfast, Naruto sat at his desk. He didn't get to do as much in-person Fuinjutsu work as his schedule was often full, but before his daily training, he liked to take time to create his agenda. His long-term goals were on hold until he learned the Hiraishin, but there were other projects he could tackle. First, Naruto was looking for ways to expand his offensive Fuinjutsu, and the idea he'd come up with is what he labeled emitter discs. The discs would be slightly larger than a shuriken with bladed edges containing seals to make chakra flow easier. In the center of the disc would be a housing, likely metal, containing a multifunction seal, allowing Naruto to make them explode, shock, or concuss his targets. He had some other ideas as well, but fitting multiple fully functional and distinct arrays within one matrix was slightly difficult. He figured his clones would need most of the morning to complete it. The Uzumaki's next idea was about his business. Naruto had several ideas for the consumer market, but one problem was that civilians could not use chakra. Naruto had been thinking of how to make his products consumer-friendly, as while the seals can be activated without chakra, they still needed to be powered by it, and that initial charge would initially run out. Naruto considered several possibilities. He toyed with the idea of a chakra battery and a subscription service to recharge them, but squashed that idea, at least partially. Chakra was dangerous. Giving it to people who knew little about it was putting them at risk. Instead, Naruto considered how to have the seals be powered by electricity. The plans the Seal Master drew up would have an adapter that could recharge the products without having to ever plug them up. The seals simply drew from the charger when the products were low on power. Naruto even created plans to have adapters be designed for a set number of seals, as in not all adapters could seamlessly charge 10 distinct seals, but some would. Naruto knew that there would be a consequence to this. Most directly, it would increase the strain on Konoha's electric grid. Having considered that problem led Naruto to his third project. Infrastructure was always a prime target in hidden villages and security always a priority. Naruto wondered if a way to protect their power grid would be to make it so diffuse, simply no one could attack it in its entirety. Naruto wanted to create seals that could turn solar energy into electricity. Naruto got the idea from the natural energy in Anko-chan's seal and how the toad oil could channel it. If he could design such a seal, the resource would be renewable, and best yet is that said seals could be applied to the surrounding trees of Konoha's expansive forests, on the very buildings, or an apparatus designed specifically for that. Seals for battery storage could be applied so people didn't simply lose the power they didn't use, and the best thing of all, no one would really have to know where the real source of power came from. The old plants could remain, giving potential threats a target that wasn't as valuable as they assumed. Lastly, as he did every morning, Naruto wrote down Haku's lesson plan for the day. Her calligraphy was already good, so she'd likely be at a level to draw basic seals in a few weeks. She was also very smart, so she was understanding much of the introductory theory. Naruto did as his Aji-san advised and tried not to go too fast or confuse her with too much detail. It was hard, but Haku was really patient, so his clones did their best with his plans drawn for today. Naruto sat at the table to eat a light breakfast of oatmeal with berries, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and some green tea. Naruto ate his meal in silence as the clone cleaned up. Once finished, Naruto slipped back into his room to grab a change of clothes, changing in the bathroom, and then departed for his workout. When he stepped outside, the air was brisk and he could see his breath. Naruto applied his resistance seals, slightly increasing the level from the day previous, and then took off. He raced across the rooftops, the wind rushing through his hair. Naruto enjoyed his morning runs. He'd enjoyed running since he was a boy. moving faster and faster, changing levels as he moved from the center of the village to the training grounds. Being able to not think about anything but still aware, ready to react if need be. It was peaceful. Approaching rapidly, Naruto could see something in the distance. As he neared, he realized it was a person, and someone he hadn't expected to see. Naruto slowed into a light jog before stopping right before the individual. "Hatake-sensei," Naruto greeted. "Naruto-kun," he greeted back with an eye smile while putting his book away. "I wasn't sure to expect you given you had overnight guests. How was it, by the way?" "It was enjoyable. I bet 3 girls in your apartment really should be." "4, Hatake-sensei." "There were 4," Naruto corrected. "Even better," Kakashi replied. "So, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I got lost on the road of life and thought I'd stay here just in case you came by. I believe I owe you some Doton Jutsu, yes?" "Ah, yes." "Good, now I am going to amend our deal just a bit. One jutsu I'm going to teach you is C rank, but I have someone coming by to teach you another. The 2 I'm giving you will aid you in performing the 3rd. As we hadn't reached an accord previously, I accept the amendment in good faith," Naruto said, holding out his hand. Kakashi shook it without a second thought. "Excellent. Now create some clones and divide them into 2 groups," Kakashi ordered, then created a shadow clone of himself. Naruto followed suit, creating 9 shadow clones. "Alright, real Naruto and clone group 1 with me. I'll be teaching you the Earth style, Earth Flow River, while my clone will teach group 2 the Earth style, Tearing Earth Turning Palm," Kakashi informed the Chibi army. He performed the Earth technique slowly, showing each hand sign with a pause and then describing how the chakra should be molded and channeled into the feet. The Narutos listened intently, and Kakashi felt he was being observed by his sensei again, blue eyes absorbing every detail, noting every flaw and planning for use in ways no one would ever expect. Kakashi simply watched as his student dedicated themselves, to the task of learning the 2 new jutsu. First, they each went through the hand signs, slowly but gradually speeding up. Next, they tried channeling chakra to it. Once they saw an effect, they tried to use more or less to see the impact. 45 minutes into the practice, the unnamed special guest finally arrived. "God, you really start this early every day, kid?" Jiraiya asked, approaching Kakashi and Naruto. Naruto squinted at the man. He didn't know how to feel about Jiraiya, as he'd never stayed mad at anyone, but he thought the man had been inconsiderate. Jiraiya saw Naruto's face and took it to mean his godson was still cross with him. "Hey, before you lay into me, just let me talk, okay?" Naruto nodded, not bothering to correct the man. "I overreacted. You were right, I don't want you to adjust the seal. I am terrified if you do you will harm yourself and the village. I should have told you that instead of delaying your ability to remove Anko's seal. I'll talk to her later to apologize." Naruto nodded again. It was as he thought. The man was irrational. His Aji-san had explained sentimentality to him once, saying fondness or love can affect one's view of situations. Naruto asked if that meant emotions should be kept out of decision-making, and his Aji-san stated that was incorrect as well. He said it was not emotion in itself that was an enemy to rational thinking, but an inability to balance emotion against other considerations or facts. His Aji-san said humans were emotional beings, and to ignore that would be no more logical than ignoring the sky is blue. "What will you be teaching me today?" Naruto asked. "So, we're good?" Naruto tilted his head. He didn't know what the Sannin was expecting. "Yes." Jiraiya speedily performed his hand signs and watched as the training ground became a mud pit. "This is the Earth style, swamp of the underworld," Jiraiya announced, turning around to see 10 Narutos stroking their chins. "I can put this to good use," the original said. Kakashi gave his student a thumbs up. Jiraiya wondered if he just resigned himself to being stuck in his own jutsu the next time he pissed the kid off. In his office, overlooking the training of his grandson, Hiruzen wondered if most of his ninjas simply lacked common sense. He'd instructed Jiraiya on how to make up with Naruto, telling the man to just be honest and straight with his godson, or if he can't, cut a deal. He certainly didn't say give a 12-year-old A-rank ninjutsu. But Jiraiya's overindulgence was really on a cherry atop his annoyance. Sunday, as his Anbu commander, 2 advisors and Danzo were all in his office bothering him. The degree of annoyance was multiplied by them initiating a conversation they'd already had. "Sandame-sama, he's wasted as a genin. He removed the curse seal, something we all thought impossible. That has to be promotion-worthy," his Anbu commander argued. The upper tiers of the village heard rumors of Naruto's sealing ability, but a lot of what would make a Seal Master gape in awe was simply too advanced for others. Many of his ninja found the Fuin bracelets neat, not understanding the true complexity of their creation. But when you do the impossible, even if it isn't understood how, people take notice. Even if it were, he would not be going into Anbu once he was Chunin. He will never be an Anbu, Hiruzen stated firmly. The long-serving Hokage was willing to let Naruto chart his path, but as long as he held breath in his body he never allow his grandson to join the elite organization. According to Kakashi, he has the maturity and mindset for it. And with his sealing ability, his primary role could be of an instructor, only taking the occasional mission. The commander pushed back. Naruto-kun doesn't need to be in a situation that encourages him to repress his emotions. Anbu does just that. He is building bonds now. I won't have his progress stalled or undone. You are thinking as a grandfather, Hiruzen, not a Hokage. His skills could be put to better use and Team 7 could find someone else to better balance them. Koharu argued. Sasuke, Naruto, and even Kakashi were all VIPs as far as the village was concerned, and it irked Koharu they were all on one team. If something went wrong during a mission, the lost potential would be tremendous. Quickly and quietly promoting Naruto and then sending him elsewhere alleviated that concern. There was also another reason she wanted Naruto away from Team 7, but she'd keep that a secret for now. I am both of those things and many more. They are not hats I simply put on, Koharu. But what you don't seem to understand is I am thinking about the village and its best interests. Anbu is limiting by its nature. I take pride in all my agents, but they are not encouraged to interact with the world. Naruto's many developments are, at least partially, inspired him being able to do just that. Think of how many advancements we miss out on because he was in Anbu HQ or running Black Op missions. Maybe there is a compromise to be made. Hamura offered as he was always the peacemaker of the foursome. It is the consensus that regardless of if you will or not, Naruto-kun is deserving of rank other than Genin. The Chunin exams are fast approaching, so it is understandable you'd want him to participate in them. It is also the case that the team is unbalanced. Maybe, while we assign a different Genin from the other teams to sub in with Team 7, we'd put Naruto-kun on a different team. One led by Jiraiya. And who would his teammates be? We can't just pull Genin from the reserves. Koharu pointed out, they'd still be unbalanced. Why, the former apprentice to the Demon of the Mist and Danzo's student. They know Naruto-kun, both are closer to his overall skill level, in some areas eclipsing him. Neither will be put off by his rapid rate of growth nor his unique personality. Jiraiya could train them well, ensuring Naruto-kun's Chunin exam performance will be the showcase you want it to be. Hamura put forward. Danzo? Hiruzen asked, wanting the former Root Commander's thoughts. If you aren't going to promote him, or give him a new permanent team, then this is the next best option. Kakashi will make sure they can still function as a team for the exams. Fine, I'll inform Jiraiya later today. Now, is there anything else? The third Fire Shadow asked. I request desserts be returned to the Anbu dining hall. The commander said. Denied. Hiruzen answered, and the commander slumped in defeat. After training with Hatake-sensei and Jiraiya, Naruto headed straight for the hospital. He had a shift in Konoha's main clinic and could clean himself up in the staff locker room. Naruto slipped in unnoticed, showered and changed. He normally preferred to wear orange, but Ino-chan was insistent he could not wear orange every day, and Hinata-chan said the color made his patients on edge as orange signaled a warning of imminent danger. He compromised and was wearing navy blue pants and a hunter green, V-neck long-sleeve t-shirt. Naruto finished the outfit with a white lab coat. The first time Naruto wore that outfit in the hospital, the first time he attended to his studies and to patients without a henge, he caused a panic with the senior staff. No matter what biases they held, they simply couldn't unsee it. The miniature version of a legendary ninja that wore similar colors, had the same hair and eyes. Several long-serving medical ninja ran to Sunade for confirmation. They did not expect to be in a closed-door session with Sunade, the Sandaime, and a platoon of Anbu. The Hokage confirmed nothing but said if what they suspected were true it would be an S-rank secret, and unknowingly sharing S-rank secrets could still get them executed. None of the staff dared inquire further. Naruto didn't know about the session, didn't know the effect his clothing choices had. He did see people looking at him with weird expressions, and when they caught him looking at them, instead of turning away they smiled. They were also more talkative than he was used to, but he liked listening to people talk, so he didn't mind. Naruto checked in, letting the staff know he was ready to receive patients, and walked into his exam room. Clinic duties were, initially, very difficult for the Uzumaki. People often didn't describe their ailments well, didn't give him a full accounting for them, or often waited until he was about to dismiss them before telling him the real issue. Sunade-sensei groaned about doorknob questions when he mentioned that last thing. She and Shizen instructed him on how to better put his patients at ease as well as how to connect the dots, as often people seeking treatment didn't know what was or wasn't relevant. There had been minor progress, but he still had a long way to go. What was working in the young medic's favor was he simply didn't judge people for what others would find embarrassing, because he didn't have to try to not feel shame. His patients didn't sense any condemnation coming from him. Naruto checked over his exam room, making sure everything was in place, and then simply waited. Soon she heard a knock at the door and watched as two familiar women entered. Blue eyes looked impassively at pale brown and ruby red. The eyes of both women widened, though for different reasons. Like the medical staff days previous, Anko had just put something together. Kurenai was simply embarrassed that Uzumaki-kun would be the one treating her. She really should have stayed in bed. 45 minutes before their arrival at the hospital, Kurenai awoke with a searing headache and pronounced feeling of nausea. The room was spinning, and she was sure if she tried to move too fast she'd fall off the planet. It was clear she'd overindulged again. Taking some deep breaths and fighting through her discomfort, Kurenai realized she was not in her bed, which means she was not in her home. The room didn't have any sense of tobacco or sandalwood, so she knew she couldn't be with Asuma. That left one person, and Kurenai hoped her friend wouldn't do what Kurenai knew she was going to do. "This is your glorious wake-up call from the sexy and single Anko Mitarashi, sweet cheeks," Anko shouted and then cackled when Kurenai winced in pain. Good, the snake mistress thought. Her friend needed to learn not to drink so heavily. "Kill me now," Kurenai pleaded, earning a softer laugh from Anko. "Now, why would I do that? Mercy? Pfft, I ain't had that since my balls dropped." "Anko, you don't have those. You're a lady, remember?" Kurenai said patronizingly. "Anko-chan might be a damn fine woman, but she ain't never been no lady, dig it?" Anko said, fist pumping in the air. Kurenai simply covered her head with a blanket, hoping Anko would go away and let her die in peaceful misery. The Genjutsu mistress knew she wouldn't be so fortunate when she felt the mattress sink slightly under the weight of Anko joining her. "Anko, please leave me be," Kurenai pleaded. "No can do, toots. I have one more day off and I want to spend it with my sister from another mister. Which means we have to get you dried out in a hurry." "Fine, just let me get showered and borrow some clothes," Kurenai said, and Anko nodded vigorously, then stepped out of her bedroom. It was slow going, but Kurenai did manage to shower and change. Even made it to the hospital's clinic without losing her non-existent lunch. Being jounin, they get seen a little faster and both welcomed the preferential treatment, Kurenai most of all. That is until she walked in the exam room and saw Uzumaki-kun looking at her. "How can I help you today?" Naruto asked, causing each of the veteran kunoichi to realize they hadn't fully entered the room yet. Kurenai walked to the exam table, Anko grabbing a seat beside her. "Kurenai-chan got overserved last night and needs help managing her hangover," Anko said. Kurenai shot her a dark look, but the special jounin merely shrugged. "There are places that make alcohol consumption compulsory? I should alert OJ-san, this could be a public health risk," Naruto said, retrieving a drink from a cold storage unit. "No, Uzumaki-kun, it was not compulsory. No one forced me, Anko was simply being colorful in her description." Naruto didn't turn around, but Kurenai heard a hum and took it as him understanding her. Once the blonde had all his items, he placed the drink down along with 2 tablets in a paper cup. "The drink will cure the dehydration, the tablets will ease your headache. Are you still feeling slightly intoxicated, Yuhi-sensei?" "No, just nauseous," she replied. Naruto nodded and then performed 3 hand signs, causing his left hand to glow green. He placed it over Kurenai's midsection, and the teammate sensei immediately felt her symptom alleviate. Kurenai smiled while saying, "Thank you, Uzumaki-kun." "You are welcome, Yuhi-sensei. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" Naruto asked, and Kurenai shook her head no. Anko, however, had a question. "Hey, Chibi, if you can cure her nausea, why not her headache as well? One of the responsibilities of a medical ninja is tightly regulating how much chakra they suspend. I have no idea how many patients I will see before my shift is over, so some ailments I treat pharmacologically." As people rarely vomit due to headaches but do so quite often due to nausea, I felt it logical to see to the one that may require cleanup. That makes a lot of sense. One last question, do you know where either your sensei or Jiraiya are? The floating leaf hot springs. Naruto responded and Anko grabbed Kurenai as she dashed out of the exam room, Kurenai barely having time to finish her nutrient-replenishing drink. Anko dragged Kurenai out of the hospital and then a hastily performed shunshin, residing just outside the hot springs. As Anko continued to lead Kurenai by the wrist, the red-eyed jounin finally had enough, breaking Anko's grip. What is wrong with you, Anko? I think I know something about Chibi, but there are only a few people that can confirm it. Kakashi and Jiraiya would be on that list. Now come on. Kurenai was tempted to refuse but let her curiosity override the impulse. Neither Jiraiya nor Kakashi were hard to find, the two hiding in some bushes, giggling like schoolgirls. Yo, Kakashi! Anko called out, getting the man's attention. He, along with Jiraiya, departed from the bush, both tensing as they expected a beating. Anko recognized the body language and scoffed. I'm not here to beat your perverted asses, I have a question about your student. Oh, which one? I have 3, Kakashi said with a nice smile. The only one I would give 2 shits about, Hataki. Now stop being funny and one of you throw up a privacy barrier. The Toad Sage looked at the dog summoner in brief confusion, but Jiraiya complied. It should be safe to speak now, Anko-chan. What is it about Naruto? I'll cut to the chase, is he the Yandame's S-? Anko didn't even get to finish as she had a kunai poking at her right lung, Kakashi's eye smiles seeming more predatory now. Both Kunoichi tensed, Kurenai still out of the loop. Ma, Anko-chan, Kakashi said as Jiraiya was palming his face. Hein needs to make that kid change his damn hospital uniform. Jiraiya grumbled. Kurenai, still slightly addled, was trying her best to figure out what was happening. It took her a few moments of deep concentration, the fog of the hangover a real impediment, before she came to the conclusion Anko had and gasped. No, that's Dash. Kurenai didn't finish her thought or couldn't, she had too many running through her mind. She wondered how different he would be if people had known or if he would have even survived long enough for it to matter. Is that why he was able to remove Orochimaru's seal from me? Anko asked as Kakashi finally removed the kunai from her. I can't answer that. I have no idea how much of his sealing talent is epigenetic, or a consequence of his condition or whatever. You two have stumbled upon what is quickly becoming the second worst kept secret of the village, Jiraiya said, annoyance clear in his tone. We knew it would happen one day, we can't stop him growing nor outlaw him from wearing Konoha's colors, Kakashi said. He'd been okay with sending the hospital staff on a long vacation, but the Sandaime vehemently refused. Kakashi understood, but 2 people can only keep a secret if one of them is dead. It would soon spread that Naruto was obviously the son of Minato-sensei. I know, damn it. I was counting on the villagers and ninja continuing that impressive streak of sincere stupidity to protect him. Hey! Anko shouted in protest but clammed up at Jiraiya's hard look. You've seen the kid several times. He literally removed a nearly impossible to remove seal from you, and you only noticed the resemblance because the Gaki was almost literally in a Yondaime Hokage costume. Jiraiya argued and neither Kunoichi could disagree. Things were silent for almost a minute before Kurenai chimed in. Well, Hinata-chan certainly has good taste, Kurenai said with a giggle, breaking the tension within the foursome. Hinata-chan? Ino asked, sleepily from Naruto's bed. Yes, Ino-chan? Hinata replied from the same location. Can we just stay here? For forever? Ino asked, and the Yamanaka wasn't sure if she was joking or not. She hadn't spent a great deal of time in Naruto's apartment, and certainly never overnight. She had no idea how insanely comfortable and accommodating the place was. Self-heating towels, heated floors. High thread count sheets that smelled of citrus and warming spices. Oh, and best yet? A clone that'll cook for you and pick up after you and could probably totally kick ass if need be. I'm not sure your father, clan, nor Naruto-kun could allow that, Ino-chan. Oh, then I may have to steal him from you. Sorry in advance, Ino replied. But what about your dear Sasuke-kun? Would you so callously abandon him for a little comfort? That would be shallow, wouldn't it? Very, the Hyuga heiress replied. Well, what about all that work I've put in? What other boys around our age know how to shop with a woman? Or will let her pick out clothes for him without complaint? Or can dance? I've put in a lot of work here. And I thank you. Hinata said, but Ino was too deep into her musings to pay it any mind. He's going to be a doctor. Who doesn't want to date a doctor? You're getting lost in the thread, Count, Ino-chan. Come back to me, back to reality. Both girls laughed at Hinata's call. Fine. I'm back. Besides, you're right, my heart is with Sasuke-kun. It just sucks. I've liked him for so long. I've been friends with Shikamaru and Choji for years, and I think Naruto-kun has paid more attention to me the few months we've been friends than any of the others. Give it time, Ino-chan. I'm sure Sasuke-kun will notice you eventually. Hinata said. Yeah, I won't lose to forehead. Ino exclaimed. Indeed. Then I'll steal you away from him. Yeah. Wait, what? It is fate, Ino-chan. You cannot fight fate. Hinata said as she began to tickle Ino relentlessly. The Yamanaka heiress tried to fight her friend off, but her counters were ineffectual. It was not Ino's pleading that stopped Hinata's assault, but the loud thud they heard from outside the bedroom. Both were up and out of the bedroom in speeds befitting their rank. When they entered the main room, they saw Tenten with her head on the table and a clone Naruto rubbing her back. What's wrong, Tenten-chan? Hinata asked in concern. Oh, just a technique I spent months learning and perfecting. Naruto improves it in like 5 minutes. She said she'd make more puppy chow if I did. The clone added, while the other clones, all reading books on electrical engineering, but nodded in agreement. Oh, what did you do, Naruto-kun? Ino asked, and Naruto looked at Tenten as if requesting permission. The Team 9 Kunoichi nodded, and Naruto briefly described the original technique before going into his improvements. So with just a few additional components, the projectiles can hone in on a specific chakra signature for a short duration and distance. I didn't know you could do something like that, Ino said. Well, chakra signature recording isn't new, and it was only a few steps from making an object track said signature. Pretty straightforward, the clone said, and Tenten had to fight the urge to grab at her hair while shouting if it were so freaking simple she'd done it already. But she was going to follow Ino's advice and put it in a mental box labeled Naruto things. The trio of Kunoichi continued to talk about things as the Naruto clones studied until they were interrupted by a knock at the door. One clone opened it to see someone he would not have expected. Hello, Mizuki-san, the clone said. I believe you mean Mizuki-sensei, Uzumaki, the Chunin said frostily. No, I either like nor respect you enough for that. What can I do for you? Mizuki sneered at the little demon's response, repressing the urge to strike him. It's about Konohamaru. Mizuki started and then subconsciously took a step back when the demon approached him. Has he been harmed? The demon said, trying to fake a showing of concern. I will explain on the way, come with me now. I am a clone. I will alert the original and he will meet you at the academy, where a full accounting of events will need to be provided without delay. The sentence ended with the closing of the door, and Mizuki bit back several curses as he returned to the academy. What Mizuki hadn't noticed were the steely gazes of the Kunoichi within Naruto's apartment, nor the cruel smile of the Yuki observing from above. Back at the hospital, the original received the memories of the dispelled clone. He created one to stay at the hospital, while informing the check-in station of his need to leave. The attendant gave him permission, and Naruto shunshined to the academy, entering with due haste. He arrived at Iruka-sensei's classroom and saw Konohamaru and 3 other boys, each having visibly been in a fight. Naruto marched over to Konohamaru, not even acknowledging Iruka-sensei, tending to his little brother's busted lip. Please explain, Naruto said to no one in particular. Konohamaru-kun got into a fight, Iruka said, and felt dumb when Naruto simply looked at him as to remind the academy instructor that was quite obvious. I don't know why, but Konohamaru threw the first punch. He's refused to say why, however fighting like this is unacceptable. What happened, Kono-chan? Naruto asked, and Konohamaru looked down, averting Naruto's gaze. Kono-chan, I am not upset, but I require the details. They called you some names, Ni-chan, so I kicked their butts, Kore! Konohamaru, what could they have said to make you want to fight? Asked Iruka-sensei. They called Ni-chan a retard, said their parents called him that all the time. Maybe I can't fight their parents, but I'll bust those losers up, Konohamaru said. The 3 boys flinched when Iruka-sensei sent them a hard glare. We don't use language like that in this academy, and we don't disrespect shinobi of this village that are trusted to protect it with their lives. You boys understand me? The Chunin asked and received a trio of affirmative responses. Konohamaru, I understand why you would be upset, but fighting wasn't the way to go. I agree, Naruto stated, and Iruka-sensei smiled at Naruto being responsible. They had superior numbers and witnesses. If you need to punish them for their words, there were superior methods. A disinformation campaign that made them pariahs would be emotionally devastating, and if conducted correctly would be hard to trace back to you. A minor poison administered over several weeks that made them lose control over their bowels was a viable option, Naruto said, stroking his chin. Iruka-sensei was mortified, especially since he couldn't correct his former student. Those were all tried and true ninja tactics, and he couldn't speak out against them. I don't know poisons yet, Nichan. We'll work on that. Instead, a series of escalating pranks would have sufficed. Or, at the very least, wait to attack when you had the advantage. I won, so I must have had the advantage. Yes, but I bet you worked harder and took more damage than you had to. What about Moegi-chan and Udan? I told them to stay out of it, Konohamaru said and smiled when he saw his brother nod in acknowledgement. Good instincts, you protected your team, but next time bring them in. Plan ahead instead of just reacting and leave no evidence. Iruka-sensei can't punish you because he expects you've done something, and if he ever tries, I'll put him in a scroll like I did Ebisu-san, Naruto said as he ran his fingers through Kono-chan's hair. Iruka-sensei wasn't thrilled by that threat, but the Sarutobi smiled, knowing his big brother wasn't really like this with anyone else. Before our movie night, we're going to be training. I have my doubts you're prepared to fight multiple enemies at once. Hi. If there is nothing else, I need to return to the hospital, Naruto said to Iruka-sensei. The man replied in the negative and let his former, and oddly favorite, student go while smiling fondly. Naruto exited the academy building, but instead of going back to the hospital, he made a detour to the Hokage Tower. His timing was fortunate as he gained entrance to see his Aji-san without delay. Hello, Naruto-kun. What can I do for you today? Hello, Aji-san. I cannot stay long, but I have something to inform you about and a question, Naruto said. Please continue. Hiruzen encouraged. Kono-chan got into a fight at the academy. Apparently, some boys were calling me names and Kono-chan defend me. Do not worry, I lectured him about the more appropriate methods of responding to such a situation. Like telling Iruka? Hiruzen asked/hoped. Like subterfuge and psychological warfare or guerrilla tactics. I did not believe it acceptable to make Iruka-sensei his agent in a retaliatory effort, Aji-san. No, of course not. I was being silly. Hiruzen replied with a sliver of amusement. What will you do in response? I will begin training him to fight multiple parties at once before our movie night. That seems appropriate. Make sure you drill him on minding his surroundings, he still struggles with that. Hiruzen added. Naruto nodded, so the Sandaime continued. Okay, now what is your question? Is it usual to not want to leave your bed if you have two women in it? Hinata-chan and Haku were in bed with me and I almost delayed my schedule because of it. The blonde informed the Hokage. Hiruzen had a tick mark and muttered something about lucky little brats before answering. I wouldn't know, Naruto-kun. That response surprised Naruto, as he was sure his Aji-san knew almost everything he'd come to experience in his life. Could you try it and let me know? Naruto asked, and Hiruzen's tick mark grew as he heard the muffled snickers of his Anbu guard. If I find two willing women, you will be the first person I tell. Thank you, Aji-san. I have to return to the hospital, but I will see you later. Of course, Naruto-kun. Have an excellent day, he bid his grandson. When the blonde left, Hiruzen had to endure the laughter of his guards, but the professor would have the last laugh as he said, Just for that, you will all be my sparring partners for the weekend. No one but the old man was laughing after that.